beasts can feel such things.
Hey, what's up, Force family? Welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast live.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Whoop.
we're gonna bring you a show. We're gonna try every Wednesday at 9:30, and we're gonna talk about the latest Boba Fett chapter 3 this morning. We got up at 6:45. Watched it before.
Yes.
What a better breakfast than a Boba breakfast.
And we should say this is our first, because of some scheduling stuff, and this is our first that we've been able to watch together.
Right.
As far
We
as
did
Boba
Mando.
Fett. We did our Mando mornings.
And now we
Did
brought
Bad
it,
Batch.
we brought it back home.
Right.
Bad Batch. Yeah. Now we got
Right.
Boba breakfast.
Our bets started early.
The bet started.
Right.
So we got a lot to talk about. Some great stuff. I feel like Boba Fett has been, in some ways, filling in so many gaps, little things that we
Yeah.
know are true but hadn't heard about. We were just talking about the Rancor,
Oh,
the emotion of that, which explains a little bit why the guy in
which is why we had the opening quote. From
exactly.
Nate.
So that may be
These
something we
beasts
cover.
can feel such things.
It's so great.
Tamar Morrison's perfect. I think perfect understated performance. It's been awesome. I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
His moments that are clearly played for comedy,
Yeah.
but delivered still with the grit and growl of him, just
Right.
make him
Oh,
so
yeah.
much funnier too.
Oh, man,
I
it's
think
awesome.
of just his. Oh, obviously, anyone who watched our last podcast episode, like a bantha,
Like a
we did that
bantha.
100
Like a
times because it was him trying to get the
Yeah,
Tuscans
like a
to understand. But it's just hilarious that this is Boba Fett doing that,
Right.
and that he's just so bewildered by the fact that, obviously, and we get into his the Rancor were just bred for fighting,
Right.
and he talks about,
Yeah.
Danny Trejo says they're emotionally complex creatures.
And how they get it.
Of course.
Fantastic. And
They
we're-
get attached to their
own
trainer,
imprint
their
on
owner.
the right.
Which kind of makes sense because when you think back to the originals, how sad was that guy when the Rancor died?
Right. That's
Jabba's
we're
Rancor.
going all the way back
They're
to that.
explaining why he was so attached
Jedi,
to the
right.
Rancor.
It wasn't just
They had
some
a bond.
monster to him. It was really something he cared about.
Yeah.
And
I
it
love that we're
imprinted on
diving
him.
into we haven't even really gotten through all the way through our intro as far as
Let's just
we're
go
just
really,
gonna go,
really.
let's do 30 minutes on Rancors and their
Rancors.
emotions.
Yeah. Is it Moochie? Is it not? Is it?
Right.
No name
Mochi.
yet.
No name.
Yeah, no name
name
yet
yet.
for Mochi.
We'll see.
I like the blinders he had on though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting
yeah,
stuff
Even
too.
in,
Yeah.
Couldn't see.
Yeah.
and-
For sure.
Interesting.
Well, overall impressions. Chapter 3. How do you think about the progression of the storyline?
Sure.
Anything stand out? Anything you love? Anything you didn't?
Overall, I liked it. I still think. I caught myself. I think chapter 2.
Chapter.
Chapter 2. I still think chapter 2 is my favorite so far. But I did like this episode for different reasons. I feel like we saw a little bit more of the present day,
Mhm.
whereas chapter 2 we had 2/3 of that was some flashback stuff.
Yeah.
This time, even though we got some flashback, I still feel like the story that was progressing a lot more was the present day Boba Fett, Fennec Shan, what's going on with the syndicates.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
So it was,
Syndicates.
overall, I liked it. Not my favorite one. I still think chapter 2 is my favorite
Really?
so far, but
All right.
I like this one still.
Yeah. I think embrace yourselves here because this is going to sound, I know we're always really positive. It's going
Uh-oh.
to sound slightly negative, but it's not meant to be negative at all.
Oh.
Of all 3 of the episodes they've had, I think this one is slightly my least favorite. But having said that, there's so much in this one I like. Again, that's out of 2 episodes that I've already given extremely rave reviews. So
Right.
this is do not take this as I don't like this episode.
Right.
I actually really like. There's some stuff, and this is
Yeah.
some of my favorite stuff we've seen so far. I think this is the one that maybe has the most things that I'm like, just kind of like, that's kind of odd or a little and I watched it multiple times, so there's stuff that I think even grew on me a little bit more. There was just a few things I think that were a little bit more, again, not in a negative way, but like jarring, as if like, oh, that reminds me of something else. I wonder if it was played intentionally to be that or if it was to be something else, which we'll get into. I still really like this episode a lot. I have to say that because as soon as I said the word negative, everyone was
Clicked
at me.
away.
Boo.
Chad, the Chad over there.
The Chad.
I really like this episode. There's some stuff we're gonna get in. A certain Wookiee.
Oh man.
Love that. And then
I
there's
don't
other
like
stuff
that
that I
Wookiee.
think is just.
I
That
don't
think
like
was-
that Wookiee.
I don't
like that. Yeah. There's some other stuff that I just think is goofier than I would say that
Ooh.
that is a little bit more
I
that
agree.
that's again, it's not that I didn't like it, but it was just compared to the other 2,
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that if I had to rank them so far, I would say that episode 2 is my favorite. Episode 1 is slightly behind that, and this is just slightly. It's not like, oh, they had 2 good ones and a bad one. That's not how I feel at all about this episode. A lot that I really liked, and we'll dive into all that. And there's a couple of things I'm like, it's not. I mean, we've talked about this even on. It's funny because everyone, understandably, most people, overwhelming majority, loved The Mandalorian. We love The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There's still characters and even moments. We talked about it in I think it was chapter 5 of season 1 that actually introduces the spurs of Boba Fett in that chapter.
Yeah.
Right.
And introduces Fennec Shan, 2 characters that I love Boba Fett just from the history of Boba Fett. And then I really have grown to love Fennec Shan even from the moment she was on screen. And even having said that, that was probably my least favorite episode in the whole series so far of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Didn't affect how I love the show at all.
Right.
It was just one of those, and I also think it's important, and then I'll get off my little rant here. I think it's important
all the time.
I think it's also important to understand that each episode serves a different purpose. So why I say that this is my least favorite of the 3 is not that I think like, oh, it tried to be this and fell short. It was just, it serves a narrative piece of it closed some chapters of the Book of Boba Fett, got us some answers that I was really looking forward to getting answers and filling in gaps like you teased, Uncle. But then also it pushes the story forward. But it is very much the bridging of the gap of setting pieces in place that I think is going to, that you don't get to where we're headed without this chapter. So I think it did exactly what it set out to do, and then just had a little bit of some goofy stuff along the way.
Could we say that every show must have a Frog Lady episode?
Frog Lady.
Exactly.
Fair?
Is that
yeah.
fair?
Yeah. As much as season 2 is great of Mando. There's the Frog Lady ice spiders
hopping
one that's
away.
like there's stuff that I'm like
They're moving
I'm
things
not
in a
sure
direction.
exactly what I'm seeing, and
Right.
they're still in that themes and even character stuff that I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
Give me Carson Teva coming to save the day with his X-wing anytime. But then there's also stuff that you're like, or like Filoni. If Filoni is
Filoni
the
coming to
X-wing
save
too.
the day.
It's both of them.
You gotta have a little bit of jar.
But then there's also stuff where I'm like,
here and there.
we're spending a lot of time on this Frog Lady. I want to kind of find out what's going to happen
She's
with
got to
it.
be important to
With
the
the
storyline
Jedi
going
that's
forward.
out there. Like there's these things that are hanging over, which I think is kind of the case with this one.
Okay, here's what's weird. When you were talking, I realized I haven't even thought about which one I like the best.
Ah.
It's weird. I
Wow.
thought, and when you said it, I thought, which one do I like the best? I hadn't thought. 2's better than 1 or 1's. It's weird. I hadn't thought of it that way. And I'm not sure why. There were a couple moments the first time I watched it, I was like, And I watched it again, I thought, well, that kind of makes sense. I didn't love the speed of the bike scene.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Felt like they were kind
agree.
of
One of the
crawling.
things that I
But here's the
have to-
reality of
Same
it, right?
thing.
These are teenage kids.
That's probably what's
These are teenage kids
Yeah.
chasing the mayor's like limo kind of.
Exactly.
So he's
Not
driving
supposed to
a
be high speed chase.
no,
This
he's
is
dive
Fast
into
and
this
Furious.
scene.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's driving like a '67, caddy limo or
Yeah.
something through the streets
Mm-hmm.
on sand, on the dust.
Sure.
So the speed felt a little bit weird. But I can tell you this: if it went faster, that would be weird too.
Yeah, this guy's got Jedi reflexes
The
now.
second time
also?
I watched
He's
it, I
fine?
remembered these are supposed to be like teenage kids
Yeah.
chasing down an old guy riding in his old car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of this when she's slid up on the bike. It felt a little Harry Potter Quidditch moment,
Yep.
a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
For sure.
But again, the way the physics of how those things run, we don't know. They're
Who knows?
different.
Yeah.
Do they bounce hard? Do they go smooth? Is it
Mm-hmm.
Hard
So-
stops or is it?
again all that stuff? I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah.
First time I was, then I looked at it again. I thought it kind of makes sense with the characters and the way they run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really think about that until you just said it. That
Mhm.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about their age, trying to keep up. Like
'Cause they were
it's
doing,
not-
like-
it's
They're like stamping it with their feet.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
jumped in. Can you imagine if they all of a sudden turned into ninjas and started like jumping in and spin kicking and
Yeah.
No.
even their
Yeah.
fighting was weak.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Look, it
Sure.
looked- so I felt like it was a theme that these are not experienced,
Yeah, they're
savvy.
just some rebellious kids that don't think there's really an order right now in their city, and so they're just
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna listen to you, or I'm just gonna do what I want.
So they're pretty good on their bikes and.
So let's stay on the
Random
scene. Let's stay on the scene for a moment because there were other
Yeah.
things in this scene too that I agree that there were like
Is that the one you were talking about when you said there were a couple things that?
that was definitely one of the main things.
Yeah,
bikes.
okay.
It was the
Yeah.
bikes. So a couple of things I was thinking of with the bikes too. My initial, and this is why I say it's not necessarily a negative, but it's like if you asked my reaction of it, it wasn't. Oh, I love this. It was. How do I feel about this? Which sounds like kind of
not the
similar
pod
to you.
race.
Yeah, it's not the pod race. It's very different.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though they have some little nods to the pod race
Yeah.
with going up the off ramp and her
Yep.
coming down,
Coming
pulling
down.
the Anakin
Yeah.
move to
Right.
catch the Bulba.
Right.
That definitely reminded me of the Anakin move, getting bumped off, going up,
Mhm.
coming down.
And how about the deliberate Back to the Future way that the thing crashes into the
Oh, I
food
know.
truck, except it's
Absolutely.
And the-
manure.
And the fruit was in
Yeah, it's the-
from
it's
Rebels,
the-
with Ezra's fruit that they
the-
were stealing and stuff like that. I don't remember what the name of them were.
Moulay Run?
I didn't know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't
As
remember
soon as I
that.
saw it, I was like, "That's what that is."
That's
Yeah.
great.
So,
Didn't
which
remember
also
that.
hits on. I thought that there was a lot of this episode that reminded me of it feeling like a Rebels episode.
Yeah.
Which I love Rebels.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's maybe a little jarring. I've heard some, and
It's a live action film.
is that
It's a Boba Fett.
is
yeah.
that it's the show that a lot of people were expecting to feel like The Godfather has
Yeah.
an episode that feels a little bit like Rebels,
Right.
which I don't think it's necessary. Again, I think it's understandable for the characters too. The stuff Uncle was hitting on with them
Teenagers or
being teenagers,
whatever.
their whole personality and their vibe.
Yeah.
One of the other things that stood out to me that I initially didn't really like as much was like they're basically riding Vespas, like they're the big
Look like
Yeah.
the way they look.
the way they look.
Yeah.
I thought that's kind of at first I thought that doesn't look as Star Wars to me as
No.
it does. It did. I heard someone else afterwards online say it kind of reminds this whole thing kind of reminded me of the Back to the Future 2 hoverboard chase.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. It was like they got kind of you got the punk teens and like
Right.
chasing and Marty's trying to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Except that the major domo is no Marty.
No.
But the actual look and the color of it,
And they each had different color
and
and,
it stood
shiny.
out. But
yeah.
that felt Rebels to me as far as okay, they're painting TIE fighters and Rebels. They're doing
Yeah.
stuff,
Right.
and I think that at first I thought, this just feels kind of strange. I don't know how I feel about all the bright colors and all this stuff. It makes it feel kind of like this just kind of
Yeah. Out of place a little bit.
thing. But then when I sit back and reflect on it more, especially when you're talking about them being what is their personality from just an appearance standpoint and from just talking to them, not me, but from Boba speaking with them in the one scene is they are the punk rock, the punk teen,
Mm-hmm.
rebellious,
Flashy.
flashy.
Yeah.
The world doesn't hear us, so we're going to do stuff to stand out and try to
Sure.
carve our own way. And on a planet like Tatooine, and I've heard a couple other people, I'll give credit because I think on Force Center they even mentioned this a little bit. Was
Color's
like
the best way to do
they
it.
talked about the drab, the
Yeah.
color palette of Tatooine. What
Right.
is one of the things everyone dresses in? The Obi-Wan's clothes looked like Luke's clothes, looked
Yeah.
like everything's
Mhm.
sand colored, and then you have this bright colored, these bikes that look different, that
Right.
move different, and these guys who have done stuff to their bodies to do all this. Again, it's not to say that everyone has to love the choice or anything, but as far as it makes sense for, I think, their characters
Yeah.
is that design. Still doesn't change the fact that when I first saw it, I was like, I'm not really sure how I feel about this
Right.
as much.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, though, I think, in the context of the story. And it'll be interesting to see. They've already come to Boba's aid
Sure.
once,
Mhm.
and we'll
Yeah.
get to that part of the chapter a little bit later. But that was one of the things that stuck out to me. And I also just thought the chase with the Major Domo went a little long. Is what I felt like. I think that what it came down to is because the episode was so short, every second they were in that chase, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is at first I was
It's
like,
a large part of
this is cool
Yeah.
because it's got Solo vibes as far as the design.
Yep.
It's got Rebels vibes, and I love Rebels. And I was like, great. And this will probably, he's getting away still. Okay, this is,
Oh,
and
so
I'm
never
like,
really
and then
caught
I'm
up.
thinking,
Corner.
dang, we're not going to get much.
Mhm.
We're not going to
Yeah.
get a ton more after this scene.
That's right.
And so I could just feel the countdown of the clock.
Mm,
And again, it's just because that
Yeah.
was just the restraints of it, and the
Right.
next
Yeah.
episode will push the story forward even more. But
Yeah.
that was just kind
Yep.
of my feelings on that scene. A lot of stuff I like in that scene, and a lot of stuff that, or in some other things that I was like, oh, it took me a little bit to kind of decide where I landed on it.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think I think what you're saying is kind of spot on. I want to touch on it just a second, but I want to say Vincent said we mentioned the Rancor earlier, and he said in the chat the Rancor seemed to bring out a little bit of his soft side.
It did.
It's true.
Yeah.
And then
How
also
about him
Vincent,
scratching him?
I know.
Likes that.
Petting him.
he's hungry.
I think he's hungry.
Do like that. I think
wanna
that's.
ride
Oh,
it.
that's
Oh.
the spot. I think that's the spot. This is great.
And then Vincent also said, "What about the scene where the Tusken Raiders were killed?" And I know
Oh.
we're gonna get to that, so we'll definitely get to that. I just wanted to mention we'll definitely get to that here in a second. But for the bikes, I agree. Kind of took me out of it a little bit. Not that much. I understand, especially now after you guys are mentioning things too. The teenage thing, the vibe, wanting to be flashy, kind of make a name for themselves. So I get all that. But even with that, I just felt like, I don't know, like you're saying, the design, the colors kind of felt a little bit more, I don't know, outside of Star Wars. But I didn't take it too far. That was kind of, all right, that's what it is.
Mhm.
Like, it didn't really bother me that much. So it's
Right.
just kind of one of those things. I was just, it is what it is. But yeah.
I agree.
Other than that,
We're done.
there's-
End of the
that's
podcast.
it.
No.
Thanks
I
for
think-
watching Colors, Tatooine, Bike Race. Hey, though I did notice this. Nobody at any time during that thing said poodoo. So
No one did. So is that?
highly disappointed by that.
I was gonna say, is that a win or a loss for the fan
That's a
base?
win.
Yeah.
If the manure fell on Biff and they redo that, then he could add poodoo
Then they
to
do
Back
it.
to the Future.
It's true.
That would have been if he had crashed and manure falls on him, and all of a sudden you just see in the background a Sebulba-looking creature, possibly a survived Sebulba, just going poodoo.
Poodoo.
Like, oh man, classic.
Yeah. I think outside of that, I do think that scene went a little long. This was a shorter episode than the last one, but I feel like the story actually progressed a decent amount. I feel like we got. I don't know what you guys think. I feel like we hit a lot of points that progressed the present day, kind of filling in the gaps. Like you mentioned, we see some of the Rancor stuff happen, but we also find out more about the twins. Right? The twins. And
Lot of
not
stuff
that,
going there.
not just that, we figure out more about the mayor,
Mhm.
kind of get a feel for where everybody's falling into their place.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like before this, we kind of had a feel on the mayor. We saw he was intimidating. People were kind of scared of him. But now it's like, he's not the only one.
Mhm.
And then you see the Hutts are now also intimidated. They're like, we're getting out of here. I recommend you do the same thing.
That's right.
And the Pikes.
The Pikes.
We kind of get introduced to filling in the gaps with the connection from the flashbacks
Yeah.
too, with his history with the Pikes.
Right.
So he's probably already got rage with the Pikes. And I don't know if we're quite done with the flashbacks yet. Even though we saw that tragic moment, I think we might see some more stuff between him and the Pikes in the flashbacks that are showing more history for the present day
Mm-hmm.
and why he was not willing to just bounce and leave and listen to the Hutts. But it's like, no, the Pikes showing up and trying to take over make me want to take
Now
him
I'm
out
going
even
deep,
more.
right.
Yeah. So I think we might get some of that too. But I feel like those points and seeing the syndicates and everybody kind of trying to make their claim progress the story and from each standpoint a little bit more.
With the flashbacks in general, and we kind of touched around and we'll get into the Tusken tragedy
Yeah.
that we had
Uncle called it.
foretold. I think we all said that
It was coming.
it was
Yeah.
coming. We felt like that was what was going to push Boba to have to leave. But before we get to that, because that's a big part of the conversation, with the flashback as far as what we saw in the dreams, I also wonder, they keep going back to give us bits, just barely a little bit more. They keep going back to Camino.
I know. They
And
keep
I
going
don't
back to
think
that
that's
shot.
just because they're like, oh, we got to fill out 33 minutes. We got to throw in some Camino
There's more
shots.
to it.
Something happened on
Something
that
happened.
day.
Yeah.
Something happened, and you see
Yep.
Django flying away, and Boba's still there, and young Daniel Logan's looking through, a young
Yep.
Boba actor. I wonder if so far a lot of the story has been told with parallels as far as the tragedy and the whole story of the Tuskens
Mm-hmm.
and his growth and development
Sure.
and the skills he learns there are told in a manner that also runs parallel to the other part of the timeline, which is now how do I lead? I learned how to work with others here. I've learned from leaders. I learned from warriors. How do I combine to then take a position of power and of leadership instead of just being the lonely bounty hunter I've always been? So those stories have served each other's purpose. They keep flashing back to the Camino scenes, and they are introducing more and more of the Pikes. I wonder, because the Pikes are around in Clone Wars. In fact, they're very much part of the Clone Wars animated show.
Mm-hmm.
If we will get any live action hint or even just a story beat or a moment between either Jango and the Pikes, him and the Pikes. Obviously, we know how Jango ends. We know where his character goes.
Mm-hmm.
But is there like unfinished business with the Pikes because of something that happened between his dad and the Pikes, or him as a child and the Pikes? Because we also know that Boba as a child, this show in the Clone Wars, starts to get into what happens after Jango. Starts to get into the crime world then. And there's some run-ins with the Pikes in Clone Wars. But I wonder if live action they're going to get to that having some parallel to what's going on in the future. And also I wonder if the Pikes, I liked the scene of, and this is cutting ahead a little bit, but the scene when the Pike reinforcements show up, felt very much big fan of Dune.
Yeah,
felt very much like Dune when they show up to Arrakis and the Atreides family comes out, and it's just like we're all coming out and onto the new planet. This felt like that, and obviously there's a lot of similarities between Star Wars and Dune. But I wonder if they're setting up the Pikes as the face of a different syndicate or a different evil that's actually underneath it. Like, it doesn't feel to me like the big reveal at the end of this show is that it's just between him and the Pikes, and that's the big thing.
The Pikes.
There's something behind the Pikes. There's someone. The fact
you
that
mean like a Crimson Dawn tire,
Crimson Dawn, yes,
like something bigger that
something
is
bigger than
behind
just the
Pikes.
Pikes. The fact that I keep coming back to that scene, and again, this is why one of the reasons why there's so much I do love about this chapter of the show, the scene with the twins.
Yeah,
and I even wrote down the quote because it was when I rewatched it, it was jarring some of the things they said. It was initially funny when they were like, "We came to Boba, we came to apologize." Like, yeah, the Hutts are known for their apologies.
Yeah, right.
We came to apologize. We sent, and then they're very straightforward. We sent Krrsantan to kill you. We are sorry.
that was kind of.
It was funny.
At first, I was like, "Yeah, kind of what you're saying is okay. Where's this going? We came to apologize." But then just immediately, like, "Yeah, we sent him to kill you." Like, I mean, you know it. We know it. Yeah. Let's just say
we're not going to hide around it. We sent him
to kill you.
We're sorry. But then the thing that keeps sticking out to me, other than and here's your gift as a Rancor, and then also here's your gift as Krrsantan, you can have him as tribute, is we were both lied to. And the Hutts say, and this is the quote of, they were talking about this territory has already been promised to another syndicate, and they said promised by the mayor is who they claim promised it, and Boba's like confused by it, and they say, we are leaving and we recommend you do the same. You're like, the Hutts
wouldn't run from the Pikes.
The Hutts wouldn't run from the Pikes.
There's
that doesn't
else.
Feel like.
But they're also showing that they're leading on that they know more than what we as the audience.
That's what I'm saying. Is that doesn't feel like, from what we've seen of the Pikes, even in the flashback, okay, Boba went, had a conversation with them. They talk about we can't be paying tribute to two people for the same land. We can't pay it for the Tuskens and for the biker gang. So you need to go handle it. And obviously then come back to the tragedy of the Tuskens and what's happened. But it's interesting because the Pikes in that scenario seem pretty reasonable as far as like, hey, listen, this is just business. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
But the Hutts who actually have claim, the one legitimate, I mean, Boba doesn't have an actual claim to the throne other than just, I killed Bib Fortuna and pushed him off.
Right.
The Hutt's cousin was actually on the throne, and they have claim to the palace. And then all of a sudden they hear, oh, actually, the Pikes called dibs. Like they call it first.
Right.
Or that it's just like, oh, the mayor actually had already made a decision. We're just going to respect the mayor.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel like a Hutt move
No.
whatsoever.
It did make
Nope.
me feel like the mayor has more power than even what he's leading on too.
We said in our review on here that mayor, the mayor character to me oozes with just gangster. Like the mayor seems.
He does.
Some of the characters seem like they're fraud, like Bib Fortuna. Boba! Like, okay, that dude's a fraud leader. Like,
Right.
in his 2 seconds of him talking to Boba, we thought you were dead. And he's like, okay, you're dead.
Mhm.
And he kills him. The mayor, how calmly he sits there and just like, oh, thank you for bringing him. Boop. Like this guy
Mhm.
doesn't feel afraid that Boba's right
No.
in front of him.
Right.
He feels like he's got legitimate power.
Yeah.
But all that to say, the big brooding, I wonder if I feel like there's more behind the
Sure.
Pikes other than just we are legitimately just afraid
sure.
of the Pikes and we're getting
Yeah.
out of here.
No, I agree. There's definitely got to be something behind, something more behind the Pikes.
That's just a feeling. So
Who's running the Pikes, or who's in control? Who's sending them there?
The Emperor.
The Emperor.
No, I don't know.
he's always
He's always in the shadows,
Always in the
controlling
shadows.
That's
everything.
true.
Always there. No, I don't think so. I think there's got to be a bigger. There's
Yeah.
always a bigger fish, right?
he's always
Yeah.
a bigger fish.
So there's got to be something else behind that made the Hutts suddenly go, yeah, we're out. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
Is it possible that it's something we already know? Like Crimson Dawn. Okay, that's
I don't
one
know.
possibility.
Could be.
We have no idea if Crimson Dawn's still around at this time or not. We don't know. But is it possible it's some sort of aspect that we already know, or could it be a new character, a new thing that we haven't seen yet?
Oh. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I just like throwing out
Timeline
those.
doesn't-
Timeline. I
It
don't
doesn't
think
fit.
works for
I like
all.
throwing out those names.
Unless
no,
it's in flashback.
I can't.
Flashback, true.
It could be.
Flashback,
I
you
can't
give-
think of anybody. It might be. It could be a new,
Yeah.
It could be a new,
entity. Something
Like
new.
if Kira were with Crimson Dawn, we don't know how old she'd be right now.
Ooh,
She'd be
imagine a
pretty
Kira
old.
that's
Right.
actually gone pure evil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
But yeah, I
don't
know
know.
it's
Don't know.
don't know. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I will say this: it did get a little confusing. I don't know if you guys felt this way too. Pikes in the old timeline, Pikes in the new timeline. Now it gets a little fuzzy. They're doing it with the clothes though.
Yeah.
They separate the two with clothes, so we know
Sure.
Boba in the
Boba with
robes,
the armor,
Boba
Boba-
in the armor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you think about it, now we got Pikes. We're gonna have Pikes in two timelines. Could be tricky.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought his performance in this was the best yet. I actually think the best yet.
The Major Domo.
Boba
Yes.
Fett.
Boba Fett.
The scene with the Tuscans was perfect. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we finally want to dive into
Simple, understated.
the tragedy of the Tuscans?
Yeah, I know Vincent was
We
wondering
haven't-
about the tragedy. He had mentioned that on here. Before we do that, too, he also said, I love the Camino flashbacks because we were talking about Camino. I love the Camino flashbacks because they tell a lot about Boba's past, even though they're short scenes.
Mhm.
Which I agree. There's not anything said, especially when it's a young Boba and he's looking off with his hand on the glass.
Mm-hmm.
But it's showing this and gives you that sense of feeling of whatever's happening right after this scene where Slave One's flying away. It gives you this sort of feeling that like he's just lonely, like he's
Yeah.
by himself. And we mentioned this in the last podcast too about how on Camino, where everybody's just like him, you know, he still is like you still get the sense that he's by himself. He's not like everybody else, and he's not. He is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
He's not rapidly aged. He's not used as a clone. He's his own guy, but it just seems very like they're keep reiterating either something else is beyond that flashback or just showing you that he's kind of lonely by himself.
Yeah, the feeling that it may be never see him again.
Yeah.
He's leaving, and
Right.
that may be it.
Right. But yeah, the tragedy. I know, Uncle, you talked about this. You kind of brought it up first in the last podcast that you really felt
It was coming.
tragedy
We
was
didn't know
coming.
when. Yeah.
Yeah.
also.
weren't sure when, but sure enough, we saw it. We saw it this episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're at a place where anything can anything can happen now with Boba Fett. Where are we gonna go?
We also
Yeah.
part of that
It's
prediction
all
was
open.
would it wrap up? We said within the
Yeah, do
next
you think-
episode or two,
yeah.
would the Tuscan storyline of Boba
Mhm.
wrap up, or would it continue on? And we said it felt like
We're close.
it felt like it was
Close for
coming,
the
and
next
it
one.
felt like the one logical thing. Not that they couldn't have gone in other directions, but the thing that made sense as far as the pieces they've kind of laid out there in the story was that they've now built this emotional weight. We as an audience who have never been given a ton of story reason to previous to Mandalorian and then and now Boba Fett. There wasn't a ton to empathize with the Tuskens or really learn a lot about their culture because they were always background characters. They were just the raiders. That's kind of all you were given.
Right.
They pillage. They take Anakin's mom. They move on. Like a lot of all these Scott was kind of the negative stuff. And when they spent so much time, and initially they seem kind of brutal. Even the kids, like he's got Boba chained up, and then just in those 2 chapters, you see him coming back, and now the child's celebrating because Boba's there. He's teaching them all how to ride, and now just timeline wise, he's spent now what years? It has to be years, I guess, with the Tuskens as far as unless he's now going to wander the desert.
Right.
By himself for the next few years and not go get his armor. That means he's spent years with the Tuskens because we know where the Mandalorian timeline picks up approximately, and we know where the where the Sarlacc pit incident happens. 5 to 7, 5 to 8 years. It's been years.
Yeah.
That's happened between then.
We're definitely pacing the flashbacks faster.
Yeah.
Than the current timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just gonna catch it, right?
Do you think that's it? We saw the tragedy. Do you think that's it for the flashbacks? Or do you think we're still seeing more of the?
I think we're gonna see more.
I think we'll see more. It's the Book of Boba Fett.
The like Tusken time with the pikes and stuff, maybe. Okay.
I think he's got to get revenge first.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's gonna lead to the. I think he'll get revenge. I think it will matter to him to get revenge as a Tusken, not as Boba Fett.
Yes.
In other words, he's going to get revenge the way the Tuskens would get revenge. And it could even be, if I might go with my avatar, it could even be unite the clans, right? It could even be, we don't need to be enemies of each other.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy of my enemy is we need to be friends to defeat these villains who are coming in here because they're going to wipe us all out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Could be he goes to another tribe. I don't know. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But he's definitely I think he's going to have to go get. We're going to uncover who this clan is, who these people are.
Yeah,
I think he's going to pursue getting together some people to fight back. And after that's resolved, I would guess we move into getting the armor, catching up to where we are. I feel like maybe.
Yeah.
Unless something else happens in that timeline that we need to know more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And do we think, when does he get Slave One?
I don't know.
We still have that.
It's still sitting out there somewhere.
Sitting out there.
When they mentioned the gift,
I thought
that's what it was.
I thought it was too.
They mentioned the gift and they kind of like show, like they like pan over to the side. I thought Slave One was gonna come flying in, but
Didn't I may have even said that
Rancor.
to you when we were sitting there. I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be a ship." Rancor. I was way off.
Didn't see that.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Which also a little side note: while we're watching the show this morning, as it's going and I'm seeing everything progress, I turn to Nate and I go, We're never getting that table scene that I've been predicting since chapter 1.
It's never gonna have
the Trandoshans. And they're sitting
right.
there, and we're like, "Oh, this is gonna be how the show opens."
Yeah,
we're like, "This is gonna be." Oh, it's not the first one.
Have to.
Well, now it's got to be second. So it's got to be third. Now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's just footage for the trailer.
It's not even in there.
It's not even in there.
We don't
That's
know.
next season.
Yeah, but
No.
yeah, it's the I think the way it was told and everything. It was, you see him emotional.
Yeah.
They show him when the fire looks like he's like tearing up in his eyes. They show the chief, like the leader. It looked like was kind of the one that they actually zoomed in and showed like recognizably that.
Placing the small staff.
The small
in the fire.
staff.
Yes,
That's what got me. I mean, it all got me.
They got me.
They all died, but the small staff as the last piece that you throw in there, like, oh no.
Do we think this is the connective piece, or is it this with the whatever's going to happen now with him getting revenge? Because we asked in our last podcast episode is the thing that, not that I'm struggling with it all, because I know that they have a grasp and they're going to tell it is, but the big link missing piece is, why does he want to be crime lord? They're like, how does he go from the Tusken, learning from the Tuskens and kind of finding this new thing to, we made jokes of like, he's not going to open an orphanage. He's not going like, I'm just going to go live in the wilderness. He says, I'm the crime lord now. Like, so what makes
Wait,
him
what?
decide he wants to
Like,
he's
what is it
learned
that-
from this, or he's been inspired by this, or he thinks that he can? We talked about, is it that he can, like a politician, like impart the most change in a twisted
Yeah.
crime lord politician way of like,
Yeah.
I am going to do this. This is still my life is dealing in this. I know how to deal with these people. And
But I
now
can give back
Here's an
I do
interesting
it in a
thing.
way that
Yeah.
doesn't prey on the weak of what happened.
Yeah.
Here's
to
something really
the
interesting.
Tuscans.
I was talking about Don Rickles, right? I was
Mhm.
before the show. Don Rickles. But anyway, that led me to this whole thing about the Rat Pack and the in 1960s Vegas, 50s and 60s Vegas. And I heard this show, and all of these guys were talking about Vegas at the time, and they said crime was incredibly low. People didn't cheat each other. Theft was low. Murder was low because everybody was too afraid to do anything. And when you walked into those casinos, it was lined with leather and plush and high
Right.
quality acts. All the stuff was to the T's. Everything was done professionally, excellent, unbelievably well. And it was because it was run by the mob.
Yeah.
Right? So they had this weird kind of code where if they kill, it's okay. But they're not going to let people indiscriminately go around and steal from people and murder on the streets.
Right.
They kind of, for their benefit, they kept everything running
They had
smoothly.
They had
Yeah.
a sense of order,
Right.
knowing they were still in control.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when they were taken over by corporations, that went away because
Mhm.
they didn't have the power to do it. They didn't have
Yeah.
the same sensibilities. And so leading with strength like that puts him in a position to do something that he couldn't do out in the wilderness.
Mhm.
Sure.
In a position of authority, he can actually, in an odd way, bring about some order, and he's already kind of doing it.
Yeah.
We can see he
Yeah.
told lower the prices on the water.
Yeah.
You want to work for me, helping kids off the street.
Yeah.
It could be that exactly what you said, that he's able to make a profit and affect change in a good way to help
Yeah.
people.
Talk about. Oh, you got something?
I was just gonna say, can I make a Boba Bet?
Oh.
Boba Bet.
All right,
He was inspired by the Vegas over
I
there.
love it. Let's roll
Boba
it.
Bet.
Odds, black. No.
Boba
15.
Bet. Here we go. We will see Boba ride the Rancor
Oh yeah. He set that up.
through Mos Espa.
Oh man,
He set that up in this as far as
Because
vote?
I think they also are teasing the fact that he didn't have a litter
yeah,
to show his power,
right.
and now he's
you
seeing
want a
other-
litter? I'll give you a litter.
He's
Oh,
like, I don't need, like, I
man.
don't need that. I mean, I can walk on my own 2 feet, all this stuff. But if he's now getting to the point, well, none of these people are respecting
Especially
me.
since
I'm gonna
Black
make
K
'em-
broke his back, he's gonna have
Right.
to ride.
Gosh.
Right.
He could.
He did.
That-
Right. So if now we just learned in this episode, this chapter, that the Rancor is more than just a beast.
It's not a coincidence that was brought up.
Yeah.
It was. They didn't. And yeah, I don't think it was just a coincidence
No,
that
it's-
they mentioned the litter, him walking on his own 2 feet, and then him now. People not respecting him. He doesn't have the big drums, but they'll listen if they see a Rancor and this dude
Mhm.
riding it, showing that it's not just a beast that he owns; it's something he actually has tamed as
Mhm.
well, that he can ride through.
We gonna vote?
Process.
1, 2, 3, bet. 1, 2, 3, bet.
Oh,
Yeah.
man,
unanimous
It's
thumbs
happening.
up.
I ride the
Boba
Rancor.
Fett
Yeah.
riding a Rancor. This is just Jon Favreau sitting in his room going,
Man,
I got the Rancor and I put Boba Fett
Right.
on
And
top.
he's
and
riding
then-
it
How
now.
about
He
one
says
of my
crazy.
favorite moments too was his tie to the holiday special. Do you guys catch that?
Oh,
Where he
it's
said,
awesome.
yeah.
I've ridden beast 10 times this size.
It's like a sea serpent or
It's
something.
great.
What's
Yeah.
that thing called?
Yeah,
that
it's
was
the,
sort
Is
of
it the Mythosaur?
Mythosaur.
Yeah.
Where
Oh,
he
the great
yeah.
Mythosaur.
the great Mythosaur.
Show you can ride this
Mythosaur.
junk.
So
Yeah.
it was also
Right.
a little tie to that. Didn't necessarily say it flat out, but it was
Oh,
a
but no,
tie
it was
to-
for sure. It was for
to
sure
him
a
riding
tie
a
to it.
beast 10 times the size.
How about, so
It's awesome.
you were talking about lowering the water price.
Yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
the actor
prices.
Stephen Root, who's been in
Yeah. I remember from News Radio as well.
Yeah, and
He's been a
he's
bunch of
also been
stuff.
in Office Space
Office
and Oh Brother
Spaces.
Art Thou. He's I
He's
think he's the blind man Oh Brother Art Thou who gets they
Yes.
start playing and he's sitting
seer,
there and
yeah.
he's been in a bunch of stuff. But immediately he comes on, there was multiple, and obviously we get to Danny Trejo also.
Mhm.
Right.
But when Stephen Root came on the screen, I was like, this is gonna be a funny character. He flat out says to Boba, "No one respects you." He says, he says to him, "No one respects you," and I'm like, wow, this is already. It again. I think
including
that
me,
including me,
even though he says he does.
Yeah,
right.
But
you wouldn't say
he
that
shows,
to someone.
In the way he shows he doesn't respect him is he says that, and then he also suggests that, you know what you could do to solve my problems, Boba, is I know you're a crime lord, but you can go back to being a bounty hunter real quick and solve this problem for
get
me.
rid of these
He
people.
literally says, "Come off of your throne and take these guys out, and I'll pay you double the money." That's a bounty hunter. It's just like he tries to knock him down a peg again of like, no one thinks you're actual. You can sit there, but like, go back to you don't have a litter. No one's respecting you around town. Even the Vespa biker crew. There's two biker gangs now. You have the biker gang, and then you have the punk bikers. The colorful. The girl says like, "I know who you are, old man." Like they're literally talking trash right to him. But I think that one thing that's interesting is Boba. I think going into the show, and again, this is why I think that the show and Favreau and Filoni and Rodriguez and everybody involved, similar to Mando, just subverts expectations. It twists on what you think something is going to be is something different, and then you end up thinking, actually, this is the thing that if the show was literally week after week, Boba Fett just wrecks shop. He doesn't grow as a person at all. He doesn't experience any change other than he survived the Sarlacc. He's got revenge, wipes people out every week. Cool, interesting. Like we like Boba Fett action. Cool. But is that why you're going to bring the character back? Is that what best serves the character? Rather than having moments of that, like there's moments where we see the rage in his eyes and he starts doing all of that stuff.
Right.
But also there's this twist, and so far his compassion, his lack of just doing what I would initially think is someone talks bad. When I'm watching the trailer for the show, I think when someone talks bad to him and says like speak freely, that it's a threat.
That's
but
right.
Really, it wasn't a threat at all.
Not at all.
It's very much, I'm doing things different now. Speak freely. I will decide that if you disrespect me too much or you don't listen, that
You're right.
I mean, maybe the only person that he didn't really do that to is Bib Fortuna. He just came in and just murdered him and just threw him off there because he just knows you're part of what made my life a nightmare in the first place. I'm just getting you out of here.
Right.
Everyone else he gives a chance. Like I want you to do this. Even Krrsantan. Krrsantan tries to kill him. He puts him in chains. No hard feelings, mate, and just lets him go. And I also feel like it's not the last time we'll see Krrsantan.
No, we'll get him back.
No.
Although he's gonna be wandering the desert for a long time because Jabba's palace is way out there.
Right.
But the Gamorreans have come to his aid now because he didn't kill him, even though everyone, the droid and Fennec, were both like, The droid said something that was great in that first chapter of like, the squeals of their something will be a good warning to the rest of like just their squeals will be a great warning to everyone. It'll like create fear.
Torture will be assigned to all.
Yes, it's like great. But Boba realizes I can't do this on my own.
Yeah.
I bring in the Gamorreans, and later in that first chapter they already saved him when he's out in the streets and he gets attacked by the Order of the Nightwind. Nightwind? Is that what they call him?
Yep.
The Gamorreans guard him. Gamorrean guards. They help him. The colorful bikers in this.
Yeah, the teens.
They talk trash to him and completely disrespect him. And how does he? It's different if the mayor or someone in power does that to him. I'm not gonna have it. I'm gonna take you out. You're challenging.
It's
but when it's someone
like
who's like
threat.
so far that he knows,
When
someone
I
that
know
he
you're not a
doesn't
threat,
see,
I'm not
you're
worried
not an
about what
actual
you're
threat to.
Yeah.
Like, there's no question that if he had to, or like if it came down to it, like he would kill the Hutts. If they were like, it's a war, I'd kill you. I don't just try to. I'm not. I don't just try to. I'm not Superman now. Where I try to never kill, and it accidentally happens, and that's just a different thing. All this to say, with the colorful bike group, they're disrespectful to him, flat out disrespectful. They all stand up, they're like, "Yeah, we know who you are." And what does he do? he takes off his helmet to like talk to them face to face and even get even more human with them. Then he's like, "You need a job. You should have work." And then he realizes we can get them off the streets, come work for me. And again, people that I show respect to, that have been cast out by others. The guards were literally set there for me to execute them. They are kind of disregarded.
Yeah.
They are now coming to his aid, and they're the ones who are saving him and protecting him. Because if it's just him and Fennec, as great as they are, he'd be dead first chapter. Like, he needs a group around him, especially when he's going up against syndicates and all this stuff. But all that to say, I think it was just interesting the way that it's not turned out the way I thought it would go at first.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes more sense, I think, for what they're setting up. Because I do think a war, I think bloodshed, I think there's a lot of action that is coming. So anyone who's just been like, oh, it's kind of not as much action, I think a lot of action is coming.
Yeah.
But I think I understand what they're doing for the purpose of his character development.
I thought of a couple things where you're saying that makes a lot of sense. How many times once Michael Corleone became the Don, did he kill anybody? Never.
Yeah.
That's what your underlings do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So establishing that distance, allowing the deniability, all that stuff is part of being a crime lord. You can't get your hands too dirty, because if you're too close to it, then everybody comes to you. You leave the distance. The Night Wind, whoever it is, does the work, and you pull yourself back. But also, what did he learn? What did Boba Fett learn from the Sand People? The Tusken Raiders taught him that a couple of things. People are not what you think they are.
Yeah, true.
And there are reasons that people do things that are deeper than just what you think they are.
Yeah.
So when he comes to these kids and questions them, they're disrespectful, but he immediately understands they're not who I thought, and there's a story built that I didn't know about.
You need to work.
And they're right. I'm letting this happen. I'm letting this guy.
This guy's
guy
taking advantage
fooled
of
me.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his anger was at the guy who actually lied to him.
Yeah.
And they were angry because he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. He's letting this guy gouge all these people for water.
Yeah.
Not just them. Everybody in the place that Boba Fett's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why he snaps back at the guy and says, "Lower your prices."
That's right. And Boba Fett has learned, I think, rather than be quick with a blast or listen, because there's a story under there that's more detailed and more nuanced than you think.
Yeah.
Don't be so quick. Slow down and listen. And that's what he's doing in all of these situations.
Right.
Fennec Shand hasn't learned that yet.
And
she's like, do you want me to kill him? Do you want me to kill him?
Yeah.
Should I kill him? And he's like, no.
Yeah.
I want to hear this because it's that information is important to figure out exactly
you
what
can
to
tell
do.
he's also, they established very early on in the first chapter that he's trying to figure out the ways of the crime lord, because immediately they ask about tribute and all that stuff, and he's actually learning as he goes.
Right.
Like, he knows enough, but he's never been in that situation himself. So when Fennec Shand and stuff there, she's mentioning, they come pay tribute, all this stuff. He's like asking questions too.
Mm-hmm.
So he's listening, but he's also asking questions to try and figure out what's the best way to do this and how do I become the crime lord I want to be. And look at how it's paying off. Yeah. You see, he had the conversation with those kids, with the teens, the bikers, and then immediately he figured out within that conversation what they really need. Is a job.
And what the real problem was, which was this guy.
The guy,
right. The guy was trying to jib them all, but at the same time, another reason is because they can't afford it as well, because they're what work do they have? And then they mentioned nobody's working. Have you look around? Nobody can do
You're not helping
stuff.
anybody.
You're not. Yeah, it's not helping anybody because nobody can work because of all this and this and that. So then he realized, well, let's go. You're hired. Like you want a job? That's what you need? Let's go. Come join me. And look at how it pays off too. He gets a run in with Black Krrsantan, and then who shows up? The people that just disrespected him. He was listened to them, had the conversation, gives them a job, and they show up to help him out.
And that's really what a leader will do. He'll hear the problem rather than just feel the emotion. He'll listen through it. Yeah. And he already we couple that with Black K. What he did with that compared to what the mayor did with the Night Wind.
Yeah.
And you can say it was thanks for bringing him in, but really it was clearly, I'm going to kill this assassin here.
For sure.
Boba Fett doesn't do it that way. It's with respect.
Yeah.
It's different.
You also,
and that's going to get out. I mean, there's a there's an unspoken code among, and we see this all these. I love the Godfather movies, Goodfellas. I like Casino.
Oh yeah,
Martin Scorsese. I love those movies.
Different gangs.
There is a code there, and there is a harshness when it needs to be, but then there's also, you see a moment when it's between gangs. If there's grace to be given, then there's grace extended sometimes in certain situations.
Black Krrsantan.
Yeah.
Boba understood the bounty hunting aspect of, hey, listen, I know it was just a job. Go, I'll let you free. Don't listen to this. Don't work for another person like that.
Right.
So, like, kind of what you're saying.
Right.
It's like mutual respect in a sense that you came, you tried to get your bounty, you failed, you listened to the wrong people, you took a job you probably shouldn't have taken. I'll let you go, but just learn your lesson. Don't work with those type of people.
That's right. That's more of a leader thing. And the Hutts, you see this similar kind of. There's kind of a code there. We're not going to have bloodshed in the streets. That's not good for either of us.
Not good for
very
business,
much a
yeah.
Don
We're going to
move
come and
right
get
there.
you when we want to get you.
Yeah.
They realized that failed. Also realized that they came to get him, but he's not their real enemy.
Yeah.
Right.
Boba Fett's not even he. So they admitted that. Bring a gift, and I think the gift is genuine. It's not. I just think it's a code.
I think it was too.
Yeah.
Code of criminals. So it's been cool to see.
Yeah.
I think
agree.
he's finding his way. He needs a couple more heavies though.
All this.
You know?
So all this is I would say in lockstep with what we were saying. We thought the show would be, as far as it being. It is still very much. It feels. I get the Don vibes. I get the Godfather.
Yeah.
I get the Goodfellas. The code. And that even goes back a little bit to the way Django had a code, and Django had business, and just even his bounty hunting, there was like people respected him as far as like, he's a bounty hunter, but he has a thing. Like there's where Boba in kind of we didn't know a ton about him in the original trilogy from his limited appearances, but when he shows up in Mando, immediately we were kind of like, oh, he's helping. He's helping Mando. He's doing something that'll serve himself, but he respects Fennec has a life debt to him, and now she's working with him because they all have this. At least these three kind of all had this code of, we're not doing this because you're just a friend in need and I will just help you. It's because you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Right,
this
right,
works.
right.
This is how we get by.
Yeah.
And also, that's very serious for us. When I give my word to you, you can trust it. Like it doesn't feel like Boba's going to be going around being some master of whispers, secret telling, spying on people, doing all this stuff. That's not the way he does business.
He is what he is.
He's very much up front.
Yeah.
That's the way he conducts business. He's very matter of fact. We joke all the time about his short little lines of just, even some of them are to Fennec just going, "I'm confused. I thought I'm the crime lord. I'm the daimyo." He's very much to the point. But I think that with all that, he is still developing on this character level that Mando went through a character development. This is different. They both have an identity thing as far as what they're going through. But this, as far as transitioning from Mando finding kind of his humanity as far as, I've been bred in something that I didn't even know what it was. I was in this kind of cult, not just even bounty hunting, but just my identity of a Mandalorian and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And then now I have a child dropped in my lap, and I feel the responsibility. How do I be a father and take care of this kid and get him to where he needs to go? That's kind of the big 2-story arc of Mando. And then Boba now is a lot of, okay, I've been a bounty hunter. I've been at the highest level, and then I got knocked off of that pedestal in the most embarrassing of ways. And then I've been beaten down, broken, and literally in the desert, starving, and kind of reborn into something that I'm like, what am I craving from the old life? I can use the things that I've learned to go do something better. And again, I'm excited to see when they really give that puzzle piece that's like, whether it's a conversation with Fennec that they'll show in a flashback, because I would like to see some flashbacks. We mentioned this in our last podcast episode, some flashbacks of once he saves Fennec.
Got a lot of ground to cover.
Some of that. There's a lot of stuff in there, but I like where it's headed with it still being Godfather vibes, but it's deeper than that as far as the character.
Have you guys noticed, it seems he's taking his helmet off a lot?
Yeah.
And I think there's more to it than just trying to differentiate him and Mando. Because Mando is obviously the impression, never take your helmet off.
Right.
So it seems like two reasons. One, they're showing, remember, he's not Mando. He's taking his helmet off all the time, showing that there's a difference there. But I also kind of get a sense that it's showing how confident he is, too. That when he's confronting people, he's letting them know, no, I'm okay with you knowing my face. I'm okay with you seeing who I am.
Yep.
When we're talking, we're going to talk face to face. I'm not going to hide behind the helmet, even though I've got this armor and this is part of my identity. I still don't care that I want to look you in the eyes, and I want you to be able to see who I am too when we're having these conversations. I feel like it shows a little bit more of I'm confident in who I am and me as trying to be the crime lord here, and I want that respect. But also shows purpose when he's meeting with the younger kids of having more, almost like a connection too. They're not just looking at a mask or a helmet; they're also seeing you. So it can have those good purposes too, in having that relationship. But also, when you're talking to the mayor or something, you can take it off.
It's humanizing.
It's
It's humanizing. It's also it shows he's not he doesn't.
Right.
Well, he learned that he didn't need the armor with the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's useful, but it's not everything he is anymore.
True. Yeah. No, I agree. I just didn't know if that was something you guys had noticed or.
I thought the second one, chapter 2, he wore the helmet more. Walking down the street, he had it on. First one and third one, he took it off for certain purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice.
Yeah.
How about this quick cameo?
Yeah.
Right?
We had
That's cool.
Yeah.
We had Pelly.
Yeah.
Amy Sedaris.
Peli Motto.
Yep.
Yeah,
with,
right.
The little droids
The
walking
droids.
in the background.
That's
It's just
great.
funny how the way they set up something that is only to us. It's not even like big nostalgia. This was like, what, a year ago? 2 years?
Yeah.
And we're like, we see it, and all of a sudden I'm like, it's her. Amy Sedaris.
yeah.
It's her. Which, like, even when her character
Yeah.
was on screen in Mando, I was like, I liked her character. It wasn't my favorite character of all time.
Right.
But now that it's
it's a different
out
show.
of place.
Different show.
It's like how if all of a sudden Jar Jar showed up, we'd lose our minds. Jar Jar's
my
in
God.
Boba
Right.
what? But when you get nothing but Jar Jar and he's stepping in poodoo, you're like,
also
the
the same scene
Jar
too.
Jar's cute.
He's
He's
a cute whole
In
thing.
the same scene, in the same shot, you get the tie to Mando with the stormtrooper
Yeah,
helmets
they're
on
putting
the
them on the
pikes.
spikes. Yeah, on the pikes. Yeah.
So that was also a little in the same moment they're showing. Remember this scene from Mando? Oh, right behind it. Boom,
That's right.
cameo.
They're giving us the timeline more right
They're
there
putting
too.
us in
They're
the-
putting
in the
us in the
place.
Mando time of,
Yeah.
which makes me think that he was with the Tuskens
Yeah.
for years. Unless those two helmets are the same ones and they've just been there for years now on those.
Let me ask you
spikes,
this:
but-
when is what time? How many years from where we're at in present day Boba Fett to like the Force Awakens? Do we know what that time frame is?
Yes.
And
Oh, do I?
do we?
No,
I'm
it's-
asking. I don't know.
Well, present day Boba's how many years after Return of the Jedi? We said
Yeah, I want to say it's less than 10, but
Less than
I think
10,
it's like
5 to
7 or 8?
7.
yeah.
And Force Awakens is supposed to be how many?
Is Force Awakens 30 after maybe?
The
I wish
only
let me
reason
look
I'm
that
asking-
up.
so. We have a childhood. We have a child Ray.
The reason I'm asking
Currently
is,
or soon to be on.
true. Yeah, I was
Jakku.
just curious. I don't think this'll happen. I was just curious because Poe's history is spice running, and we've had this tease with all this spice.
Ooh.
But I think
30
he's
is
too
30,
young.
30 years.
He'll probably be too
Was
young.
between Return of the Jedi to Force Awakens is 30 years.
Not that I
So
think
this
Poe
would be
would show up, but-
20-ish, 22, 23, 24, something in there.
I
What
was
did you
other-
say? I was looking up
I
stuff.
was saying we have the history of Poe as a spice runner. So I was
Get your
trying to
spice.
figure out how old he was. I don't think they would actually have him show up in a show, but it just made me curious because obviously a big emphasis so far, especially in the last chapter, was the spice with the pikes.
Yeah.
Now we see more development in the pikes coming into this chapter, so
Right.
it made me think, oh wait a second, Poe is a spice runner, but I think he's too young. So I was just curious what the time. Even if he
He'd be
wasn't
little.
too young, I don't know if they would have him show up. I just got me thinking about it.
Pikes and
There's
spice.
a lot of ways it can go.
Pikes and spice and
Pikes and
Everything there.
Spice.
Corellia.
I
And,
know. I know.
I
All
thought
right.
about something
ties the
else
Han
too.
Solo.
Yeah.
I had another question. Do you think we'll get any? So we've had Boba Fett flashbacks childhood.
Yeah.
We've had Boba flashbacks to post Sarlacc.
Yeah.
Do we get any Boba flashbacks? Empire Strikes Back era
Ooh.
That would be cool.
between Empire and
Give me a little Vader with
a little actual
Bosk?
bounty hunter run, something where he's actually doing
Yeah.
that side of his life, or there are lessons that he learned. Because
Hmm.
this is really about, this is kind of like the story, the memoirs, the story, all the
Yeah.
things that made him who he is. There's a big gap there. Childhood is one thing, but there's that whole section in there where he was actually bounty hunting. Why would
Ooh.
that not play a part in this show?
What
Seems
if
like it
there's a
could.
I like that.
flashback with him and Bosk?
Right.
That's what
Before
I'm
we
saying. Boss,
introduce,
Anything.
Dengar, a little
Boss.
IG-88, get all
Could you
the get
imagine
the
All of
Creator?
creators.
those. Mm-hmm.
That'd be crazy.
We
That'd
got
be
Hayden
crazy.
hanging
Yeah.
around.
We do.
So, what a great
I like
little
it.
That would be-
cameo there.
That would be wild. That
Sorry,
would be
Master,
wild.
but I hired Boba Fett now.
Sorry.
Anakin, I'm not your master anymore. Quit force calling me. I'm hanging up now.
I have things to do.
It's going straight
Sorry.
to force mail.
That's force mail. Straight to force
Straight
mail.
to force mail. I'm screening
Force
your
mail.
calls, Anakin.
Hello, you have reached Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Master Obi-Wan, I know you're there. Answer my calls.
This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Anakin.
I regret to inform you my voicemail is full. Oh, man.
That's so great. All right, can we address Black Krrsantan scene?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you see something coming out of that flashback? 'Cause
Pulling
that
him out
was
of the
pulling out of the memory, out
of the
Bacta tank?
Bacta.
Right.
It's a split second, but immediately when water starts rushing out,
Oh, I
I was
know.
like, I don't think he did that
I
right.
don't know. I don't think so.
I was like, he
I
abruptly
know.
does it. I was
Right.
my first for half a second thought, does the
Where
water
is-
collect in
it's
his
not
room? Or where
supposed
is
to.
all this? It's like it's just
And then
all
you just
flows
get
out.
grabbed
And just grabs him and
thrown
throws
across
him in
the
his
room.
underwear.
That
and
was
starts breaking his
Talk
back.
about a brute, too. My goodness.
A brute.
yeah. A couple things. One, how much of a stud is Krrsantan especially when all of the now again, I think they tried to show these aren't elite warriors. These
Right.
kids
They
that are
didn't
coming
fight
in.
like that.
They're
They
brave
just
though.
showed up. Yeah, they're
And
brave.
Boba told him that in the
Brave.
streets. He said, "You are brave."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
just even to talk to me like that. He's
Right.
like-
Right.
He's like, "You got guts."
Yeah, so I think they were
brave.
showing that, but obviously, the bigger part was to also show how strong and how bad
That's right.
Krrsantan is. But
Those knuckles.
it didn't even phase
Electric
him. They
brass
latch on,
knuckles.
and he's just tossing people left and right. That was
Mhm.
crazy.
They're stabbing him. He gets stabbed in the hand as he's holding on to.
Gets stabbed a couple times. Boba gets him with a
Yeah, Boba gets him.
stick or the
And that knife,
the
the,
knife.
the blade in the hand as he's
How about
holding
the
on before he
brass
falls
knuckles?
into the. I know. That's what I was just saying.
Yeah,
His
the knuckles.
electric.
he got knifed in the side, too.
I also thought
Yeah.
it was interesting too when the Hutts didn't even want him back.
Mm-hmm.
The twins. Like we don't want him back. Sell him back
Sell
to
him to the pit.
to the pits, the gladiator
How
pits.
degrading.
It's like, oh my gosh, that would be crazy.
That's that's so degrading.
I know.
Yes.
It's
It's like it's basically saying you're a failed bounty hunter.
Okay.
We don't want him back. He's not going to do
He
another
did.
job for us.
He did fail.
Yeah,
They didn't kill him.
they didn't.
How about when he dive tackles the Gamorreans down the steps and one of
That
them
was
just squeals? I was like, oh, this poor pig.
Taking a piece of pork,
Yeah, and then he tosses
bites,
one.
a,
He
bites a
tosses,
piece of ham out.
he
He
tosses
bit a
one of
piece
them like a
of
rag doll.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I was like, these Gamorreans.
but it
getting
showed
tossed.
Boba too in that fight. I mean, he took some damage. But
Oh,
it
when he
was-
throws him into the back of the tank, he looks like he was dead.
and
Like
you
he
could
threw
hear
him
the
to
cracks
side.
of him
Mhm.
just squeezing him,
Just squeezing him in half.
just squeezing him.
biting his hand.
I know.
I wish Boba in the middle. This would have been a hilarious moment. If in the middle of that, Boba goes, "Get me to the tank, Bacta. Get me to the pod." They're like, "We can't. He's got you." Every time he's hurting, he's like, "Give me the pod.
Give me
Give me the
pod.
pod." You can't
But
rely
no,
on that
I
one.
think we're seeing more injuries, but for a second I was like, oh, that's it. He's done for this fight.
Mhm.
But he got back up and kept fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Boba did. which
I
was
like
tough.
I like Nate how you say taking damage. I love
Take
it.
damage.
It's like it's a
the
video
game.
He's just taking.
He's got like
damage.
12 hits. He's got like,
Yeah,
I'm
he
thinking hit
does.
points. I'm an old
His
D&D
health.
guy.
Yeah, he's
He's
totally.
He's probably got like
His
12 hit points
He's
left.
got the HP left.
He's taking
yeah.
damage.
He totally does. He's got
That
the
was a
HP.
double damage
He
squeeze.
just doubled down. He just took a med pack right there. Just took a
med
double
pack.
down on a Star Wars.
Stim.
med
I love
Beatty,
it.
give me a
PhD.
stim, Beatty.
pack. Give him back in. Force heal? Okay.
That's exactly.
Force
How many
heal.
lives does he have left?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew I should have saved before this level. It's just the
Darn it, I could redo it.
Checkpoint.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
man.
I thought
Yeah, Krrsantan was great.
that. I mean, one caught me off guard, but
I know.
Yeah.
also-
Totally blew me
it's
away.
One of the
just-
coolest
what
parts of
in
the
the world?
episode
I
for
just
sure.
any scene with him now, I'm like.
So how does he
checkpoint.
come back? What way does he?
He joins. I think so. I think that.
I know this is going somewhere dumb.
No,
As
no.
soon as he said
Okay.
No, I think.
can't wait.
Just the way you said that. Well, he was. You were too confident.
Well, no, it's.
You know,
Look at him. He's going.
we know, you know something about his.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's canon. He joins a Tusken Raider crew out in the desert.
No.
He learns the ways of leadership. He becomes. And they're no, hey, that was
No, he
that was
joins
all I
the
was going
Bantha
with.
group.
And when they're
He joins
He
the
learns to ride the dune, ride the dune sea with the band.
You don't even mean ride. You mean he becomes a
Yes.
Bantha?
He learns
I
from them.
actually do know what happens.
I
This
like
is the
that.
most demeaning thing. He is the sax player with Max Rebo. He's sitting in
He's
the.
like, they pick him up.
Wait,
He's just like, oh gosh.
we
So
go
degraded.
into the next cantina place, and Max Rebo's jamming, and then he turns and he's got shades on, and he's just sitting there.
And Boba Cassidy. Black K.
Like, hey.
This is your life. Wake up. This isn't your life.
Oh my god.
Plays a solo.
That's so
I think
good.
he's gotta come back at some
I
point.
think they're part of the
Unless
reason why
they're
they.
setting up a
yeah.
Wookiee spinoff where it's all it's an all Wookiee show, which will go over great.
I think part of the reason why they showed them end on good
It's like
terms was
the
that we'll get
special.
them back.
It's just all subtitled.
Yeah, I do think
It's a Wookiee special. All subtitles.
I do think that it's. I think they're setting up the fact that he's in good faith with
Yeah.
Boba. That if he needed him,
And
Yeah.
they
No
have a
hard
history
feelings,
too.
mate.
They've done jobs
Yeah.
together in the past.
but now that he legitimately had him as a prisoner and could have
Yeah.
killed him, could have sold him off, and instead
Yeah.
it's like be free, no hard feelings, and then. The way it felt very much
felt
like,
you mean I know what you're gonna say the way he ran off.
yeah. What were you gonna say?
Oh, no, it just felt very Sasquatch. Like,
Bro, I was gonna say it felt like Bigfoot. He goes,
Next
listens,
scene,
looks,
he's like-
and goes like, "Oh,
Caption.
just
I wanted
running
to
in a
see-
straight line like he was hiding.
please give me next next chapter." They're going through the woods, and you got Fennec's got her, and she's looking through.
There's that
Just the pause.
Rose
the-
picture.
and then all of a sudden,
Like
just
the-
it is. It's the
the
it's
pause.
the scene from Elf. It's
Right?
it's
Bigfoot.
Oh yes, we've got Black
Oh,
Krrsantan
man.
out as Bigfoot. He's actually this is a prequel. This is a Bigfoot origin story. He is Bigfoot.
That's how it happened.
That's
Oh
it.
man,
No, I think yeah. The reason they ended on good terms, he'll be back at some point.
that's a
At some
muscle
point.
you want to keep on your crew.
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
Do we? I still think that we mentioned this before, and I know we mentioned this last episode on the podcast, but the recruiting aspect of him building up a team, and we see more members join with the teen biker gang. I was hoping Black K would be joining too. Obviously, he let him go, but I think we might come back to that. But now, is it possible we get some of Bosk, some of these other syndicates that are here, but are not in favor with the Pikes?
Yeah,
That also don't want the Pikes moving in.
for sure.
Want to go against the mayor.
That's
and
how
now,
it's gonna work.
Now that's where that's leading up to that scene, the meeting that we keep teasing, right?
That's
the
right.
dinner table where he sits down and's like, why, what's he say?
He says, "We, why?"
Why-
Just kidding.
Exactly
why
what it
fight
was.
when-
Yeah. Why?
When we
What is
can
it? Why
be
speak
rich.
of?
Yeah.
Why speak of
Bloodshed.
bloodshed
Yeah.
when
We work together.
when
we
cooperation
make
can make us all rich?
So
So rich.
so I got a feeling now that that's not just him having peace for himself. That's more of him teaming up. Hey guys, let's do this together to get rid of
Mm-hmm.
the Pikes and
Yeah.
the mayor. It's not though. I don't feel like they're going to be included in that. This is let's get these groups together so we can all be rich and take out the Pikes and the mayor, whoever's running, or maybe even more of who is behind the Pikes. Who else is further behind that, and then we can, as a group, rule.
Well, because what was the last line of this entire chapter? And we will be ready. He talks about this is just what she says. This is just the beginning. We're going to war.
Yeah.
Yep. I wonder. Boba Fett.
Uh-oh.
Do we think that Boba this is a little off topic. Do we think that Boba off topic doesn't happen? It's not off topic, but it helps us get to present day still with our filling in the gaps.
Okay.
That biker gang, not the colorful crew, but
alien looking ones
with the symbol,
the boots,
the J and
the boots. I like it.
Yes,
the boot kicker gang.
Do we think that he just wipes them out? Do we see? Because I do think that
I think so.
I think what's kind of crucial to, I do think that they, not that they necessarily need to do something story wise, but I think that they have been in the past intentional of showing the brutality of Boba in the future in the Mando timeline.
Yeah.
Where in now present day Boba, which is a little bit past that Mando on the hillside helping him when we first see him in the tragedy, not to be confused with the Tusken tragedy, which we have coined. But he is more brutal than Mando, and he's breaking and you're like, Boba, you got him. Like there's some guys who like break their helmet and then keep bashing, and you're like, it was supposed to give you a reaction that it did.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Which is interesting though is that is Robert Rodriguez who directed that. Robert Rodriguez, also directed for Spy Kids, did this one, which has much more of kind of the lighter. It still has the elements of darkness, but like we said, has some of the more kind of goofy stuff in this. I don't think Robert Rodriguez has forgotten the seeds that they planted and Favreau and them have planted in that. Now he's transitioning into being the leader. But do we think that in between where we get to that in the hillside, he's just coming off of, he learned the stuff with the Tuskens. Now the Tuskens have been brutally murdered. This is a crew who he gave a chance before. He had an encounter with them before and took their bikes and they didn't get the message. Now what do I do is I go in and I think he wrecks shop. That's my prediction is, do you think he kills, whether it's the whole gang or he gets revenge by killing a lot of them rather than just like, he's not a crime lord at that point. He's out in the wilderness without his armor.
He's just out for revenge at this point.
So do we think that he gets revenge and kills them?
I do.
That's the bet. Well, Nate just spoiled it. 3, 2, 1, bet.
Yep.
I think that's what happens. That wasn't a huge out on the limb, but the reason I think it's important for the story is we haven't seen a ton of that in him as crime lord of the brutality side.
Yeah.
When does it come out? Because they have teased it in this show, in that interaction with the Order of the Nightwind in the street. Remember, they zoom in on his face again, and he does the big wind up.
The assassins.
Same move he did with the gaffy stick on the hill, he does with them.
He also just
with
blew up the assassin on
the
side of the wall.
So do we feel like he's still teetering of like he's got this in him and he only wants to bring it out when necessary? Do we think it's intentional when he brings it out, or is it like an overcome with rage of like, you did something, now I'm like, maybe he was having on the hillside of the Mando episode, he's come off of the thing with the Tuskens. They're now attacking, even though he has no connection to this, they're attacking a child. And he's just lost the Tusken child he had connections to. He doesn't have any connection to this child, but this is what they're after.
Sure.
And he knows that the Empire's evil. Bang, bang, bang. He's going to kill him. I don't know. That was a long-winded rant.
I think Boba only knows one way to fight. Like, there's only one way.
Yeah. Once the fighting starts.
When I go, it's full rage.
Yeah.
It's rage.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't even necessarily know if it's just like you had mentioned, is it just out of like emotion or rage, and then maybe like later he's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I think it's more like like kind of what you're saying. Like there's two levels. Like if it's time to fight, it's fighting. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna be. But
Mhm.
if I can negotiate, if I can do this crime lord thing, negotiate and
That's
be
the new
strategic
Boba.
about it,
Yeah.
that's the way to go strategically for business to try and get order and also gain respect,
Mhm.
right? Because he's not going to get the tributes. He's not going to get the respect unless he is strategic now at this
Mhm.
point. It's not just a matter of going and killing everybody, because if you do that, who is there to rule over? So I think it's more of, okay, now that we're going to war, it's on. Like you're saying, like you flip the switch, it's on. I don't necessarily think it's out of rage. It's just, that's just the scenario.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
all right. You're
Try to
fighting me,
negotiate.
or try to kill me. You're gonna die. Like that's just the way it is. It's not. Yeah.
I think you're both right. I would try to negotiate because I'm trying to have an organization as
Yeah.
far as some sort of, like you said, it's some sort of control where the unorganized chaos and random people and the helpless are getting preyed upon and all of this stuff is not what he wants. He's not someone who's just out for blood as
Mhm.
like Palpatine
Right.
is pure evil.
Right.
That's not Boba.
I also don't think he's just out to help everybody either.
No, I
No.
don't. I
Right.
don't think so either. And I think the show will continue to hit
Right.
upon that. I don't think that this is just by the end. He's nothing but pure. I think that we
No.
root for him. Obviously,
Right.
I'm not saying even as of now in the show that I think that he's a lot more evil than he is good. But he's. We keep coming back to it. He's the self-proclaimed crime lord.
Yeah.
Right.
He didn't say I'm just the Lord. I am
Right.
breaking the law, and I want
Mhm.
people to know that I'm the Lord in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I
do-
think that
yeah.
that is going to keep coming out as far as I don't want to go to war with you. I don't want to have to fight you. If it's fighting time, I only know one way. So
Yeah.
just so you know,
Yep.
I'm trying not to take that path
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
you. If you pull your gun on me, you will be disintegrated.
It's Obi-Wan. I mean, it's kind of like a
No
Jedi,
disintegrations.
Jedi way. Like Obi-Wan, I don't want to fight you, Anakin, but you're leaving me no choice.
Mhm. And I will
because
take
of
the
that,
high ground.
We're going to be ruthless. about
Don't
it.
try it.
Like that's just the way it is. And so I don't think it will be a scenario where as the season goes on, we'll see Boba get, soften up, become
Mhm.
this good guy. I don't think that's the case at all.
No.
I think the only reason why you might feel a little bit of that so far is because he's taken on a different role and he's trying to be strategic. That's the sole reason.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because it's actually this. Like I do think the character is developing, but I don't think the reasons for his development is purely out of just I want peace, I want to help you as a person, and that's it.
No.
I think it's because benefiting you is also benefiting me. And
Well, you
I
can't
want-
start a
yeah.
war until you have an army.
Yeah.
That's the thing
so
you're hitting upon
he's
earlier.
He's got to find a way
He's
to
learning to be
to build.
strategic, gather people. We keep coming back to recruiting,
Yeah.
right? He's gathered some more people, so he's got a Rancor now.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that's kind of the direction we're going. I don't necessarily think it'll be a soften here.
Do you think he feels guilty for the destruction of the Sand People? Is that on him?
Because I was thinking that
Well-
while watching, as I was wondering, because he stole their bikes, but
Right.
he was doing it because they were already taking
Sure.
advantage of people stealing their water, doing
That's right.
this stuff.
But did he?
Well, here's the thing.
did he
though.
bring that tribe to the front of the top of the list?
But did he lead them right to? Yeah,
He might
that's-
feel that way. Maybe he feels that way, and we might see a little bit more of that answered. But I could also see him just feeling like I want revenge because of what you did. I don't necessarily think it was my fault,
Mm-hmm.
but because the reality is they were getting picked off
by the Pikes.
by the Pikes. They were
Mhm.
getting picked off anyway.
That's right.
So whether he took their bikes or not, and whether he responded and retaliated or not, chances are they were going to get, people were going to come across them and try and take him out if they got found anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So he could very well be like, I tried to help him. But because of his connection with them, he's going to have some sort of feelings towards it and be mad and want revenge
Yep.
regardless because
Mhm.
he cared for him, obviously, and they brought him in.
Mm-hmm.
So
One more
it'll be interesting.
specific as far as our Boba Fett, that our prediction that came true was, I think we also went in detail and said in our last podcast episode, do we think that it's going to be a Boba goes off on a mission by himself and he comes back and it's like a Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru situation where they've been,
we
did say that.
As soon as chapter 3 started where he went off, I looked and I was like, I think he returns to disaster because he's out by himself. I think that when he comes back, not to toot our own horn, but sometimes we're way off on our bets. I'm still waiting on
the meeting.
Still waiting on this meeting that I've been saying.
Would it be okay if we got an actual horn to toot when we get it right?
I think it would be great.
That's our Boba Fett tooting horn.
Yeah. I don't know what that was.
Oh,
the horn of Gondor.
No,
Or something I was trying to do.
I think so.
I don't want to
so.
toot our own horn, but I shall.
But I shall.
Here's the horn.
All right. I think
we all pull out behind our backs. Put them back. Each
after
time that
this
we've
chapter,
done good.
let me ask you this. This will be interesting.
Oh.
What are you, whether it's the next chapter, you think it will be in the next chapter, or just the rest of the season, from where we're at so far, what we've seen from this episode, what are you What are you most excited for? What in this chapter are you most excited for to see carried out or gone?
Like what was set up
further?
or what?
Yeah.
I think I want to see him destroy those biker guys.
The flashback.
I do too.
The flashback biker gang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
Are
equally.
they connected to? Do you think they'll have connection to the Pikes, or do you think those are two separate things?
They're not. I know that the aliens. I think they're different. They might have been helping or something like that.
Do you think they were in business together? I guess as well. Obviously, they're not the same group, but do you think there is some sort of connection between the two, or do you think it's just this was the Pikes train coming? He took care of that. This is a separate biker gang now that he's trying to take.
I wouldn't be surprised if they told them.
Yeah.
Where they got the bikes.
Yeah.
Pikes and the bikes. If the Pikes told them they used your bikes to do this.
To take their spice.
And you either solve this or we're going to solve
it. If the Pikes use the bikes to take their
spice,
spice, but not the Vespas from us Espa.
No, I don't know. I
didn't
feel
have
like there's a reason for everything.
No, Pike Spice bikes.
They introduced the Pikes obviously with the flashback some too with the train.
Right.
I wonder if this separate group now is something that was tied to that, or if it's just its own story. I don't know. I guess we'll see it play out. I do think
that's what I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
I want to see them taken down.
I do want to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for obviously the inevitable war/conflict that's coming with the. It excited me seeing the reinforcements, as I mentioned earlier. It reminded me of kind of the Dune scene of just like the door comes down and just like a bunch of military guys come out.
Come on.
I am excited
to see. The bikers too are a little bit like spies, like not the teen biker group. That's part of his thing. They're like you see him there. One of the guys is listening, and he speeds off as he sees the group. It's like he's got people now that can be little birds. They're little birds.
I said it earlier. They give you Rebels vibes.
Yeah,
they give you a little bit of like
they do.
They give you a little bit of one of those kids could be a not actually going to be Ezra like canon, but like they've got a little Ezra, Sabine.
They're not too intimidating, so they kind of people just pass by them and not really think twice about them.
Like, I'll steal some melons and I'll do a couple of these little things because the Empire has its boot on our throats and on our necks, and that's why. And this guy from a million things, including "Oh Brother Art Thou," is charging way too much for water.
He is.
His name, by the way, too. I was watching it again with my wife, Abigail. Yes, it's just a great name because I was watching it on. Abby likes to watch it with the subtitles.
Oh, so it puts the name on there.
Which
you learn stuff.
Helps a ton for podcasting purposes and for like getting character names down. Lortha Peel is the guy's name. Lortha Peel. And I was like, that's a great name. Lortha Peel. And the girl is Drash.
Drash, I saw that.
Is the girl.
I heard it's not the girl from the comics. That's a different name.
You were saying that. Yeah,
that was a lot of speculation.
Looks similar to
a similar character that were not comics from like legends and stuff with because the arm
was a similar design.
Oh, yeah.
People were speculating it was a character from the comics, but I guess it's not a different name. I think bigger picture, like big storyline. I'm probably most excited to see the war play out
Mm-hmm.
between the syndicates, the Pikes, the mayor. I still feel like there's a lot more to the mayor than what we're hearing. But
like that. I
smaller
like him.
story wise, like just like one, if I had to pick just like one little thing I'm looking forward to, I want to see Boba ride the Rancor.
Mm.
I think
Yeah,
that-
right.
Yeah.
Whether it's through Mos Espa or just him training on riding a Rancor by himself in the
Yeah.
desert or with the keeper, Rancor keeper.
Right.
How about
just because I think it'll be a
That'd
funny,
be awesome.
How
cool
about
thing to see.
how Danny Trejo mentioned that the witches of Dathomir rode the
Yeah.
Rancors through the forest?
I want to see that.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's the show I want. Give
That'd
me
be
We
that.
awesome.
might get it. Acolyte.
I think we could.
Acolyte for sure.
Give me live
Every
action
line happens
witches.
for a reason. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna see those witches.
Some
ride.
live action witches of Dathomir is just such a cool thing from
Oh
Clone
my
Wars.
goodness.
It's
Oh my
like as soon as they get
gosh.
into that,
My
every time,
favorite, man.
especially
It's
because
so
you remember
cool.
the way that the arcs are told in these like 3-episode
Right.
types of things. I know we even talked about too of like, oh, they teased Maul at this point. When are they going to get back to Maul? And then
When
they
are they
get
gonna
back
get-
to
Yeah.
each time they get back to the witches. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good
Mhm.
episode.
Right.
Loved
and
it.
Savage.
So cool.
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. No, I agree.
I was going to mention something about the mayor too. The mayor. I can't help but do that every time.
Now that's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Mayor
Goldie
Goldie Wilson.
Wilson.
Like the
I
sound
like the
of that.
sound.
Everything comes back to Back to
Mayor.
Future.
Here's the thing.
Was very back to
The
future.
mayor's never the guy. The politician is never the guy.
Exactly.
The
That's why I feel
politician
like,
is always the guy who's controlled by the guy
yeah.
or the group. So
Yeah.
Boba's
He's the face.
learning that. He's got to put on Godfather and just watch it real quick.
Yes. He's got a
Because
lot
that
of-
would
Watch
tell him
Back to the
everything he
Future
needs to
and
know.
You'll know the next
That
turn.
Back to the
That's-
Future.
Boba's
So the
like,
mayor's
you can
not
take
gonna
out
be
5
anything.
families in one night.
The mayor's going to be he's a puppet.
Mhm.
He's the politician in place. He makes it legitimate what he does. It makes it legal.
he's a Snoke. He's a powerful guy.
yeah.
People will listen to him, but there's someone else that's telling him that's pulling the strings.
Right. He's
Where-
a politician in place. Yeah.
This reminds me, where do we think the mayor is? Because
They
he's
said that something about him having.
he remember obviously the major domo lied.
Yeah,
Right.
He was not there.
He's like, oh, yeah, he's booked. Let me go
so
speak
it
to
was
him. Then
true.
he goes
he
in
was
there and
booked
he's
up. He was
Mhm.
gone.
He wasn't even there.
he's gone. But the fact that he's pretending he's there, is he
Right.
having a secret meeting with a syndicate somewhere? Is he's doing
Well, the
something that
Pikes, if the Hutts are saying that, if he's in
That's
deals
it.
with the Pikes, then he was meeting with the Pikes. He didn't want people to know. That's why he's not there.
That's
Because he's the one bringing them in.
That's it. Yeah.
Maybe.
because he did say, yeah. What did he say that the
Plus, if they're running the
different-
spice,
Right.
that means he's not only just wants control, he's also doing a lot
What
more.
they
He's
didn't
running
mention
Yeah.
the syndicate that he had promised it to though, right? In the actual, as far as the Hutts,
the
twins.
Did
Said
Yeah.
that he had promised, and I was listening
to
to
another
that.
syndicate.
That's
yeah.
what was making me think of.
Say who?
Is the Pikes?
Is that the syndicate?
is that the syndicate? Because they
Sure.
made it where like if you're thinking Pikes, totally lines up. Could be Pikes because we know
Mhm.
the Pikes are a threat.
Sure.
But he says they're getting out of town, and he promises to another syndicate. And again, it comes back to that question of are they that afraid of the Pikes, or it is also like you were talking
Yeah.
about old timey gangster type of a thing. Also, where whether they're afraid for not, if it's bad for business and it's bloodshed, where
Right.
they could. Hey, we're all about territory and turf war. But also, am I gonna get, like the Hutts are also smart where they're like, we're not trying to end up like
well,
Jabba.
right.
If
That's
they-
why they say
and
we're
if
out of
they
here.
truly think that Tatooine is kind of worthless
Until it's
place, like
dirt.
if it's not really a profitable place, like you might get some profit from being there and
Right.
working, but if it's not,
I think it's not worth it anymore. Because Boba had all the infrastructure. That's what made it work. He had all, or not Boba, but
Jabba.
Jabba had
yeah.
all the infrastructure,
Right.
everything in
The
place.
bounties, they were coming, Han,
Right.
these guys, Han,
So he would
Boba, they
funnel-
were coming to there for jobs.
That's right. And Jabba then would funnel money through his organization back to Nal Hutta.
Yeah.
Sure.
So now that he's gone, they don't have like a. It was his palace, but they don't have like a stronghold there anymore.
Yeah.
No.
So they're like, why are we going to fight over this hunk of sand?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's
Right.
go back and.
This isn't an
go.
empire that we're trying
Not
to
anymore.
take back. It's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
They
just
thought they
a
could just come in
place.
and get it, but it's not that easy. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that might be it.
And that's why they were okay just saying, yeah, we tried to kill you, it didn't work, whatever. Here's a gift, we're get out of here.
Yeah, let's don't.
Here's a
keep this
gift. It's a
going.
general. We're serious about it. It's a real
Yeah,
gift.
we
Take
don't
the
want to
gift.
keep
We
the
just- that's it. No bad blood. We're out.
animosities over.
Yeah.
Yeah, which means there may be some connection in the future with them
Yeah.
because they saw
Yeah.
good faith on both sides. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll
Why
be
not?
interesting. I feel like there's definitely got to be more
They could just be lying too.
either individuals or a group. Like if he does pair up with some other syndicates,
Mhm.
Boba, like at the meeting or something.
He's
like
gonna
that.
have to.
He's gotta he's gotta get more people on his
Mhm.
side.
Yeah.
For sure. Is it possible? I know we bring this up every podcast episode. Does Mando? Do we know for sure if Mando shows up this season? Is that confirmed that he's in this season or not? I've heard mixed things, so I don't.
I don't think there's anything. Well, here's always if your question is, has StarWars.com, who has the official announcements in Lucasfilm, have they made an
Right,
announcement that
no,
he will definitely
then they
return?
wouldn't do
But
that,
like they
yeah.
did announce, like Hayden Christensen will be in.
Right.
Sure.
They did that. No, that is not announced.
Yeah.
There have been, I think, even during the production or during like the lead up to the show, there were rumors of like, we hear that he may.
Yeah.
Now, I did also hear that there are multiple people that are rumored to be like, oh, could be in this show, because a lot of stuff films a similar place. So I know that some people were like, so and so, the actor was in. We're not sure. Are they here for Mando? Are they
Are they
there
film-
because this
yeah.
is where one of the volumes
Sure.
are that they
Right.
now they've got multiple
Sure.
locations with the volume, but. That's a
Mhm.
logistical thing that has caused some people confusion who usually break these scoops. They're like, I have it on good authority for sure this actor was in this location filming for
This
Star
show.
Wars.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, was it for
Right.
Book
yeah.
of Boba Fett or was it for
Mhm.
Mando
Obi-Wan,
season
or was
3
it-
or was it
Yeah.
for Obi-Wan or
Right.
was Anakin there because he's filming something already for the Ahsoka series or is it just because he's doing and they're like,
Right.
well, we couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So I do think that was one of the things is that I know that it has been rumored that there's a chance that he'll because there's also it's been said since the beginning and again you can't take everything that when people map out a course of we're gonna have these shows and these movies. Obviously we know, especially with Lucasfilm recently, they've had
Yeah.
a lot of change of course of stuff and the
Yep.
Rangers of the New Republic is out. They've also changed course on some movies and stuff of what the
Mhm.
trajectory is or the projections. They initially, at that investor meeting, 2020, Kathy said that this is intertwined into a big climactic event.
Yeah.
We don't
Right.
know how many seasons of Mando they're planning on doing. There is no confirmation of
Or
anything.
Boba, we don't know.
Or Boba. There's
Or
no
Ahsoka.
confirmation
We
of
have no- yeah.
anything after season 3 for
Mhm.
Mando. Now, Mando is their big moneymaker right now.
Mhm.
Like, obviously,
Right.
everything is Mando crushed and has done
Sure.
great. But does that intersect and go off to a different story? Because I do think, as we all sit here, I do think Disney Plus Star Wars is here to stay. There's a bunch of
Oh
things,
yeah.
and not only I think that even the Mandoverse, let's go the
Filoni-verse.
Mandoverse, the Filoniverse, but the Mandoverse
Specifically
of
Mandoverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
not. So this is not
the
Acolyte,
live
not
action.
Acolyte and Obi-Wan, and like those things
Sure.
are different,
Mhm.
or Andor.
Just their projects.
But let's consider that as Ahsoka, because Ahsoka is in the Mando
Sure.
timeline,
Right.
and you've got obviously Boba Fett and Mando.
Yep.
Mhm.
I do think that there's ways that those projects. I don't think necessarily that Mando will moving forward connect a lot to like Ahsoka moving forward because they kind of
Mhm.
already had that
Yeah.
connection as
right.
far as
right.
that served its purpose to set up the Ahsoka story. But Boba's different because there's a lot of similarities between Boba that there could be Mando coming over here or Boba coming over here or them connecting to some big thing that we have. It was just a vague comment that was made by Kathy
Yeah.
a while ago that we don't really know what that means or if that's still
Sure.
in the plans. Because at the time they hadn't
Yeah.
even announced Boba Fett yet. When
Right.
that was when they were keeping it
Yeah,
under
that's
wraps,
true.
and then 2
Right.
weeks later at the
That's
Mando
true.
finale, they said Book of Boba Fett and already had a date, which means they already were filming it.
Yeah.
Like they were already. So who knows? There's also probably already another project that they've got under wraps that they're waiting to.
Yeah.
They might announce something at the end of Boba Fett. If Boba Fett will return
Boba Fett.
in this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Mando still owes Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Big time.
for helping.
So
Now here's the
Come and
thing.
help
So
him.
assume
Play out
Mando
in-
is in it.
in a war.
So,
Let's
hey,
say
you
he's
help
in
me
this
take
season.
your war, and you come help me take
Let's
Mandalore.
finish this
Yeah.
now.
Although Mando doesn't want Mandalore, that's a whole different
I know,
thing.
That's a whole thing.
It's
It's
a
just how it's
whole
gonna
different.
play
That's
out.
the
That's the
difference between
thing.
these two. Help me so I can rule, and Mando say, "Help me because I don't want to
I
rule.
don't want
Right.
to roll.
I don't want to rule."
Well, here's the thing, though, is because I'm just trying to think. So assume Mando's in it at some point. He's in this. He's in this season.
And there's only
Mhm.
4 left.
Does
This is moving quick.
Does Mando seek out Boba? Does Boba seek out Mando to help in this, or does he just? Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I mean, obviously the story would be told. I'm just trying to think of from the stuff we already know, what kind of makes the most sense from where Boba is right now compared to where Mando season 2 left off.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because he owes him and he's like, "Yeah, you owe me. Come help me out," or is there some sort of deal that's made again, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of if he is in it, if these rumors of him being in it are true, where does that logistically come into play of him showing up? Is it just as simple as Boba, hey, I'm recruiting you?
This is why I love. I don't know where
Man,
the show is
I
going.
don't know.
I don't know.
This is like
either.
how are we predicting stuff for Mando season 3? Where like it's like a blank slate. Other
It's
than
just starting over.
Or
yeah.
or
This
does
is what Boba
something-
feels
yeah.
like after seeing the fulfillment of the. That's why the Tusken Raider thing was so important as far as filling
We
in
felt
where
there
he's
was
been.
a path
Yeah.
there. Now
Well, there's a path. Now it's like we don't know. We also
Or-
don't know
yeah.
it because the Book of Boba Fett, like Uncle was saying, they could. How interesting would it be? I don't know if they would do this.
to
I think it would
stop
kinda
that
handicap 'em.
timeline.
Yeah,
Go somewhere
or
else.
what if
Yeah.
they jump ahead, or like they pull a Lost and they flash forward and show stuff that's happening.
Sure.
Now that wouldn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
as far as him in the back tank currently and having dreams of the future, but like you said, as far as going to a different time in the past,
Because
Yeah.
these
That-
are all the things that made him who he is.
Right.
I feel
Because
like that's what we're telling.
Which fits with the title, book.
I
Yeah,
feel like
right,
with the
right,
book,
right.
here's a bet: will there be flashbacks / dreams in every single chapter of the book of Boba Fett going through the finale? So far we have, but that would mean he has to be in the back to tank every single, because that's the way they do it.
It's where he sleeps, so
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But like, is
Which
that
they
going to
could. They
happen?
could always
Is he
start
on
with a-
Slave 1 doing a mission and he's got a portable back to tank that he goes and sleeps in so we can still get those scenes? Or that, do we
Yeah.
predict that will happen every single chapter throughout?
I don't know.
Or does that feel like a big
say
task?
yes.
Like you think it will?
I mean, so far it seems like they're making it a mission to show these things, and some of them have even been the same scene.
They
They're
keep
showing-
adding
they
little
keep
bits to
going-
that
adding
Camino
little-
scene.
Yeah, exactly. That scene gets a little bit longer, and
I
not
don't
always-
love the tool. I don't love the tool of a dream.
of like using the back of tank as
I don't
as
love
a
it.
place he has to be to dream for
Yeah.
this thing.
Is that just
Like-
because you think it limits him? It limits the storytelling? Or
Yeah, from what I said earlier, if you didn't see the other podcast, usually when there's a dream sequence, you dream about the things that you experience. You can't dream about things that happen while you're unconscious in your dream. So
Right.
if Boba's unconscious laying in the sand, you can't have a memory of sand people or Jawas coming and stealing your armor.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you can't have a memory of sand people carrying you when you're
Yeah.
unconscious. Those aren't memories that you can have because you weren't there.
Yeah.
You were there, but you didn't experience that.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was limiting, similar to what Lost did, with just cuts. Everything's fair game because we're watching from the outside.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be anybody's perspective.
No, and
just
it's
now
not-
you're
this is-
watching this time.
And it's
This
not
is the
any
show.
sort of time travel or
This is
anything.
the
This
show.
is just for exposition, just for a
That, to
narrative
m-
purpose to tell you.
From a story perspective, that makes it easier to tell the story.
You have more freedom.
Making those jumps on Lost is easier because of the way they did it.
Sure.
I don't know how that would play out in this show because you'd have to have some kind of. Lost did it with like a wipe all the time, a
Uh-huh.
similar.
And you hear this,
Yep.
and
I
then
don't know how that
kind
would
of
work
a
in
sound.
I don't know how that would work in this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Unless they just continue using the back tank and it's just a different time period now that he's dreaming of.
They could do that.
Yeah.
They could do that, and so I think they will because the book is going to cover. I would expect them to have things in between the timeline.
Yeah, I agree. I
That
think
would make a lot
I
of
think
sense.
we will see different timeline from the flashbacks. Kind of what you were saying, Empire timeline. Him working, maybe not specifically seeing Vader, but like that
Mhm.
kind of maybe he's doing a job or
Something that
or
shaped
something
moments that
that
have
was a
shaped
tragic
him. Mhm.
moment for him. Maybe it's a moment of him
The
doing
dent in the helmet.
dent in the helmet,
Mhm.
or a moment of him collecting on a bounty where he realized I don't want to be a bounty hunter. I want to be more than that.
Yeah.
Could be a moment like that that has helped showing his
Mm-hmm.
development and wanting to become a crime lord and
Yeah.
not just a bounty hunter because
It
something
would
happened
explain why he's thinking the way he's thinking.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: any revisions on any of our previous bets of now that we're this far in and see where the story is going? Do we still think Bosk is in this, or does it feel like if you would have, it would have already been a part of the story, or Bosk or Dengar or any of those original? Put it this way: do you think that they would be in present day? Is what I'm getting at.
Yep.
Or do you think that the only way that they would show up now
His flashback.
is if they did a flashback of Empire time?
I think we're gonna get
Trandoshans?
Trandoshans in the. He's not going to be among them. I don't think Bosk will be among them.
I agree. I feel like we
I
would
think
have
the
already seen him.
Trandoshans that we see are just going to be the people
only
on that
explanation-
planet.
Yeah, like,
and he has a connection. Maybe the
Mhm.
connection between him and Bosk is involved,
Yeah.
but I don't think we'll see Bosk.
Yeah.
That's my.
I mean,
my
I feel
thought.
like if he was already on world, we would
Mhm.
have seen him.
Yeah.
So the only way I feel like would be him showing up from
Mhm.
off world, coming to meet with the Transdoshans or something to settle something.
Right.
But then if that happens, that might seem a little bit forced. Just bring him intentionally into the story if he's off world. Because we haven't
I
seen
don't
him
see
yet,
it.
I feel like he would have already come across him. Maybe. I don't know.
And if-
I mean it's still possible. If
Yeah.
he shows up and he is at the meeting and he's already there, I'll just be, oh, okay. He was there.
Right.
But I kind of get what you're
I feel
saying.
like he would
get the
overshadow
vibe
it.
that He would have already.
That's what-
I feel like he would be too much.
Yeah.
The
Maybe not.
I also keep wondering where Slave One.
That's what I want to see play out.
Well, that's
one
what I
of the
really
things-
want to
another
see
one.
is where it's been, how he gets it
That's
back,
true.
and then where he goes with Slave One in this series if he actually does finally have to go off world. That's again one of the things, like we have no idea. Now Hutta, does he go to? I mean, there's not much to
That
find on
could-
Kamina.
that could explain-
Kamino.
Kamina. Tatooine.
Tatooine.
That could explain. That could explain the time. If he does go off world and something happens, he would not be around to hear the stories of the armor.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
That's true.
He could go to the Jawas and they nothing. And then he's off world, right? That's the thing.
That's the best Jawa. Nothing. Nothing there.
That's all I got.
Holding up eggs.
That was great.
Yeah, what are you trying to push on us?
Suka.
You know what else is weird? Two things today. So I'm playing the old Disney Infinity game
Ooh, yeah.
with my 5-year-old,
Let's go.
where you can put your characters on the little thing and they come to life in the game.
Yeah.
And we're playing a Tatooine adventure, and we're slaughtering sand people like animals. Okay,
You
And it
slaughter them like
feels-
animals.
and it feels weird.
It does
I'm
now,
like, I
right?
can't just shoot them. They got families and feelings. Before I was like, get them.
They got families.
Families and feelings.
It feels weird.
These
So I'm thinking,
beasts.
we got to go back and watch episode 4,
I think it's gonna feel
and we're
different.
gonna see like
These
this
beasts.
interloper, Luke, this
Yeah.
interloper coming through, and the droid
Yeah.
coming in, and Obi-Wan chasing off the poor savages. Like, is it
It's-
gonna feel weird?
It might feel
Like
I
we're gonna
think
be
it's
rooting for
feel
him.
different.
Kill that white kid. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's gonna be. It might feel different. How about? I mean, now this is different because of the specific situation, but it actually adds not just the men, but the women and the children too of Anakin slaughtering all the sand
Well,
people.
the voice drifted
And
slowly.
the children, too.
Women, it's just the men at the
A
women.
slaughter them.
Animals. Yeah. Now I
Oh,
will say,
man.
Anakin had a very personal grievance against
That's true.
them with
That
what they did
particular
to
group, too.
with his mother. Not saying that means given to the dark. I'm just saying it is what it is.
I'm not saying give it to the dark. I'm saying give it to the dark.
You're saying
I'm
go
saying
ahead
given
and
to
do
the
it.
dark. I'm saying you dabble. No, not what I'm saying. But yeah, they just back to slave
Definitely
one.
makes you feel some type of way now that we have history.
Yeah.
with seeing the good side of the Tusken Raiders for sure.
It's different for sure. It makes me kind of want to go back to not just even, but it also I do like that they have distinguished in this show of not all of us behave the way that some. It's kind of alluding to the ones who maybe went after Anakin's
That's right.
mom.
Yeah.
Or the ones taking pot shots during the pod race.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's that about?
No one is here unless
Right,
they're
right. They're shooting at kids.
Shoot the children.
Shoot the kids and take the
yes,
parts of
totally.
the ships. Pod race.
Yeah, just. Oh,
You guys, when you were talking,
go.
you made me think of something. I think you're gonna like it. We keep questioning where this is going.
We immediately are betting on
This isn't
if we'll like it or
necessarily-
not.
This isn't necessarily a bet.
Put
This
my
is just
my Krrsantan
Yes, exactly.
knuckles on my
Let
electricity.
me
Fire that.
charge. Let me charge my knuckles real quick.
yeah.
My knuckles
No.
are out of battery.
We keep wondering who's the bigger. What else is behind this? I can't believe we haven't thought about this yet. But is
Palpatine.
it possible?
We've already
They
said that. I
teased-
thought we talked about
thought
that.
this was
I
obvious.
mean,
He's always in the shadows.
Is it possible that they intentionally teased those stormtrooper helmets for a reason? That they're dabbling with part of a
Oh.
fallen empire? Because we've seen it in Mando,
yeah,
and maybe that's what ties Mando to this: is that
there are troopers around that are finding their
the
way.
Pikes are they're working for spice, but that's because whatever this fallen group of the empire here
Mhm.
is having the Pikes do this so that they're getting money, and that's part of their payment to try and rebuild. This is tying back to the empire somehow.
Well, in
And
this
maybe
time
that's how
period, Moff
Mando-
Gideon's got some
Yeah,
Yeah.
guys, and obviously now in Moff Gideon's wherever Mando is, as far as at this time,
Yeah.
because he's captured with them prisoner. But there were troops throughout the galaxy
Right,
still,
so-
and then like you said, some of them skirt to the outer rim, is what everyone is
Right.
is
Mhm.
talked about. Went to the outer rim, and sometimes even the unknown regions,
Yeah.
and that's how
So is
It's
it
part
is
of
it
how the First
possible
Order
that
rises.
the showing the stormtrooper helmets is not just a tie to like, hey, remember this scene from Mando? It's a cool little teaser.
Mhm.
We're
Amy
reminding
Sedaris. Amy Sedaris.
this- but it's also a reminder that
On the
hey,
nose.
we haven't talked about the Empire at all yet in this show,
right.
and
That's
we're
true.
reminding you, hey, there's still
factions out
stormtroopers.
there.
There's still these factions of the fallen Empire that's
Mhm.
out here. And it's a reminder that's, oh, yeah, I forgot. They're also going around. We're talking about all these syndicates and stuff, but don't forget the stuff that happened in Mando where there's groups of fallen, fractured
Stormtroopers that he had pulled
stormtroopers
in.
that are being
Right.
pulled in and taking orders from people. We saw in Mando that they teased the kind of cloning thing. And I think we even mentioned in a different episode here of, is it possible that there's a facility on Tatooine somewhere
Mm.
of the Empire that's trying to, work or do some of this cloning? Do they have a factory or a station out there where they're working on this stuff?
Mm.
So is it possible that part of the reason why, because we mentioned the twins, why would the Hutts fear the Pikes? It doesn't feel like they would, unless they know that the Pikes, they don't truly think that the Empire has fallen. If they know that the factions of the Empire are still out there and in control, is that part of the reason why they don't want to mess with them? And because they know
Ooh.
that the Pikes aren't just the Pikes are part of
Do we have a
working
moth
with the Empire.
behind the Pikes?
Exactly. Is that part of it? And the Pikes are just a front for the spice. But really, that's just a way for the
Yeah,
Empire to get money and get
something.
control. And I don't know.
Because once it fell, all of these Moffs and their individual Star Destroyers and individual ships
That's their chance to try and
just go off and make their own path,
Yeah.
right? Why not? They got all the power.
And they can,
Right.
yeah.
And that to me would also make a little bit more sense too, as why Mando could get involved,
Mm-hmm.
because he now has a history with the Empire, at least a
Yeah,
little bit,
right.
and they've got a little bit of a history with him that we saw from. He knows that they wanted
Mhm.
they wanted Grogu.
Yeah.
So if he finds out Mando shows up, he's like, I tracked them here or something. Like if that is part of what ties him into Boba and realizing this is more than just these syndicates. There's a bigger picture that's going on. That is something that I could see connecting Boba back to the show, maybe.
And any remaining Moffs seize the opportunity to, like, during chaos, that's just even throughout history of when different people rise to power and stuff, there's some sort of avenue of, well, these two are against each other, and like we were talking about earlier, if you don't even need to be my friend, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend in this case, and this chaos, and then they're just drawn back into it like a moth to a flame. That was all just a setup for that.
Ooh, a moth
That was nonsense.
to a
it was just set
flame.
up for that.
That's nonsense.
That was nonsense.
I love it.
If I was,
It's a long way to go.
That was a norm right there.
It paid off.
except Norm would have gone 7 more minutes, and then finally it was
And they were like,
Doc,
like a moth.
the light was on. Yeah,
The light was on.
that's all I had.
Possible. I just keep trying to think of, because you mentioned earlier the potential for all these shows connecting. And so far, there's been a lot of connections with cloning, the Empire, that type of stuff.
There's even some Krrsantan and Obi-Wan.
There's only
Yeah, that's true. Krrsantan could be showing up in Obi-Wan. We know there's a history there.
I don't want to say it again, but there's only one connection between all of these. It's the Emperor.
He's
I
out
thought Jar Jar's
You
key to all
laughed,
this.
but there's only one connection between.
It's true.
That's true.
From all the way back.
I would
Sure.
love. Okay, so some people were
If
unhappy.
they do that, people would burn their
I
televisions.
was just gonna say, some people were unhappy.
Can you
of,
imagine seeing Palpatine
this is the thing. They
in
double
his
down.
full robes just walking the
Go
streets of
completely
They double
Mos Eisley
down in
with
each
the
of
pikes?
these.
Be awesome.
They double down in each of these Disney Plus shows. In the finale, it's revealed that Palpatine was behind it,
Ian McDermott.
and they do
At
it
the end.
every single time. And Kathleen Kennedy is like, "What? You don't like it that Palpatine came back for Rise of Skywalker?"
Watch this.
Well, guess what? Guess who's behind Mando? And it's just the last episode. He's just like, I'm back. And then all of a sudden he's behind, and he's different time period. They do a acolyte. He's like, I'm back somehow. I did World Between Worlds. And he just always ends up coming back. That's the whole
Can you
thing.
imagine?
Like, we've
Always
solved
in
our
the-
big bad for every single season, so that helps us with the writing. It's always Palpatine.
Right. Leia put
That's
the foreshadowing. Always there, behind the scenes,
Yeah.
controlling everything.
Can you imagine?
Jar Jar is the key to the whole thing, though.
Jar Jar skills.
Yes.
I know we can do it. No, we can do it.
It's
It's
impossible.
impossible.
Yeah. I don't know. What else? Any Boba
Any
Fetts or
predictions? Yeah. What as far as moving forward? anything you got
Trandoshans.
some-
Next episode.
Is the meeting happening next episode?
Next episode.
I feel like
Me-
It has to.
Is the meeting happening next episode? 3, 2, 1.
thumbs up.
It has to,
Alright.
because now they said, well, we'll be ready. I feel like they're getting
Well, our third
reinforcements.
guess is the charm, too. You can't, strike one,
I
strike
think
two.
I'm going on 4th guess, maybe, because I think
Did you guess
I
first episode?
we predicted for the show that everything that I saw in the trailers, I predicted everything I saw in the trailers would happen within like the first 20 minutes of the first chapter.
The first chapter's only 30 something.
There's multiple things haven't even happened yet from that.
Yeah, there is.
I was looking at the
Fidelity
titles of the
Sons of
episodes
Tatooine.
of the chapters. Excuse me. Of the chapters: Stranger in a Strange Land, The
Yeah.
Tribes of Tatooine, The Streets of Mos Espa.
Yeah.
The
Chapter 4.
The lies of Mokshais. Wait, they have all the names already?
No, it just,
Oh,
says chapter,
chapter.
just says chapter 4
meeting.
up to 107. It says, or chapter. It says episode 107. It's a misprint. Chapter 7.
The meeting. The gathering. The deal.
The Mokshais.
Lizards at the table.
Peace.
Peace in our time.
Peace
Yeah.
and war.
The meeting.
The trials
meeting,
of
the
Boba
gathering.
Fett.
The gathering. That was a
The Gathering was
a
a
movie.
yeah.
Was that a Mando episode? No. I think the meeting.
The
Is it-
Sanctuary was.
Is it the
Was
boots?
I can't-
The logo.
What do you think? Is have any thoughts about what those could be? Do those
logo?
indicate something from another?
I was
don't
trying
know.
to
I'll
think
have
what the
to look
symbol, 'cause
that-
it looks like a J
I'll have
almost.
to
and an
look that
L
up.
or
I wonder if
something with
we've seen that somewhere in
Ooh,
the comics or
JL.
something.
JL. Justice League?
Justice League? I thought they were like feet.
Yeah, I don't.
They're
not
elf.
sure.
It's
They're
some
elf.
sort of logo.
they're
Obviously.
elf
They're really
shoes.
zooming in on it too. Like they're
Yeah.
really making sure that we remember.
Yeah.
They even give us the little flash. Is this the first time they've done a flash like that?
Wait, that's who took
They
out.
cut away like when they showed the symbol.
Oh my gosh, what if
They gave us a little flash as an audience, going boom, boom, to him thinking
man.
of back at the watering place that these were the people who stole the
Oh, yeah,
water,
you're
and, stuff,
right,
and
from
then
the
came back to
flashback,
it. That's the
yeah.
first time they've kind of done
What
that.
if it's a J and a J, and it's a Jar Jar clan?
the Jar Jar clan?
Jar Jar's right.
If
You imagine.
Jar Jar Binks is the big bad, and
Jar Jar.
Boba has to ride a Rancor, and
To
Jar
chase
Jar
him.
stands in the street like Heath Ledger's Joker, and just waits. And the
Come on.
Rancor,
I want you to
he's
do it.
like, I want you to do it. I
I
want
want
you.
you to do it. I want
He's
you
like,
to do
come on, Mister wants you to do it. Mister wants you to do it. And then all of a sudden he just skids out of the way, and all of a sudden he looks over and and he does his version of Heath Ledger's. He has his and gets a little like fly over there.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
we got to recast Batman as with Jar Jar as Joker. Or that
Jar
would be-
Jar's, yeah,
That would be
that
spectacular.
would be fantastic. Oh, just
Yeah, I mean,
let's put a smile on Yusa's face.
use of face.
You complete me.
Yusa,
Why is it so serious?
Yusa complete Misa.
Why is it so serious?
Why is it so serious?
What's so serious?
I don't hate you.
Yes.
What does he say?
I don't want to kill him.
You're garbage. You kills for money. Yusa might be saying that. Just
Must not want to kill you.
Oh,
that'd be so
man.
good.
Oh, dude.
You were,
Gosh.
He talks about him being kicked. Now we're in Dark Knight Rises. He's kicked out of the League of Shadows. He's extradited from the League of Shadows.
Missa was born in the dark.
Misa clumsy. You were banished from the League of Shadows because you were clumsy. Yusa might be saying that. just nonsense.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy, off the rails. I love
Like
it.
a moth to a flame.
A moth to a
Oh
flame.
man, I don't really. I feel like
It's a blank slate. That's why we were
I
excited.
had way
I
more
mean,
predictions.
having said
last
that, they said a
chapter.
lot of pieces. Like I think we can expect there's a Rancor riding thing possibly in the future. I think
I don't know what it is. I want to see that so bad.
You don't know what it is. I know what it is. That's glorious.
that'd be
It's
awesome.
Fantastic.
I want that more than anything.
Yeah. More than anything.
More than-
More than anything.
More than anything.
More than anything, Master
I wanna
Obi-Wan. I
see
want to
that.
ride a Rancor. Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon is
Oh,
rolling
man.
over in his Force grave right now.
Okay, I'll throw out a bet. Do we see Boba with more? Do we see some scenes of him just getting more training with the Rancor next chapter?
Oh, next chapter?
Because he's asked,
I
he
don't know
says
if he has
He
time.
says I want to learn to ride it. Do we see some of that training, like with Mando? They showed
Yeah.
he wanted to learn to ride. What was the things called?
The Blurgs.
The Blurgs.
Blurgs, right.
He wanted to learn to ride the Blurgs, so they actually showed some scenes of him getting on and trying to learn to ride it. Do
Are we going to see
something
a
like that?
Rancor montage falling off scene?
Yeah.
Maybe.
They would be
Maybe.
they'd be doubling down on the montages because he's already had his training
He's
montage.
had that
He's
one?
had the like a
Yeah.
bantha
Like a
montage.
bantha.
Do we see some of that?
Maybe.
I'll tell you what I would love more than anything next chapter. It's just a long chapter.
Just a
Right?
long
Give us
chapter.
another 50
Give us
minutes.
when we open it up and I see an hour and 2 minutes long. I would just be
Let's
so
go.
excited.
It's a
I
mini
know.
movie.
So
Are we going to
excited.
get another Robert Rodriguez, you think? That's 2 out of 3.
He has done 2 out
He
of
did-
3.
He did 1 and 3.
Yep.
If
And
I-
Steph Green did the
Did 2.
chapter 2.
When
Robert
do we
Rodriguez.
get-
So we'll
By the
see.
way,
When do
Danny
we get
Trejo is a
Favreau?
second cousin of Robert Rodriguez. Did you know this? I
Really?
found that out today. And I found out that that's why he's apparently he appears in a lot of Robert Rodriguez stuff as like a small character here or there, but he's
That
apparently they're
makes
second
sense.
cousins is what I was what
Really?
I heard today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got a prediction.
That makes sense.
Boba Fett.
Okay.
Wait, I thought we were supposed to bet on it. Like you were like I thought we were betting on it before we even heard it.
No,
Blind
we're about to-
bet.
Ready?
We're
Boba
going
Fett.
all in.
Favreau. Because we know he's doing an episode, right? He's
Yes.
directing at least
We
one.
predicted be something in the early, right? We predicted early,
Favreau
but
directs the episode we see Boba riding the Rancor.
real quick, did we say Filoni is also directing one? I don't remember.
I read that. I read
I'm
that.
asking on that though.
I read that to you the other day, and
Favreau does the Rancor. Just because I
Favreau
feel
does
like
the
that's
riding
him
the
playing
Rancor.
with the action figures.
I do feel like he would do
I
that
feel like
scene.
he would want the Rancor.
I feel like Favreau would do the
Rancor episode.
Rancor scene.
don't
I was
know.
looking up the director's list. Okay, I'm ready.
Does Bryce do one?
That was on the list.
I keep
I love-
my arm
This is
up.
our new thing. What was it last week? What was our symbols last week? Prayer hands and
Man.
Bryce Dallas Howard's on there.
Bryce Dallas. Okay, so you're looking up a list.
Yep.
Okay.
Bryce could do it too. Bryce has got
Jurassic.
her Jurassic. That's why
Jurassic,
I know that a lot of people were talking. I mean, she even said behind the scenes too when they're talking about the making of, that she treated the way that she filmed the ATATs or ATSTs
Mm-hmm.
was that the walkers were
Treated it
supposed
like,
to treat like
horror.
like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
That
T-Rex.
Bryce filmed it that way
Oh.
because it's supposed to, and
Going
that's
through the
why
trees,
it even
you see
had
the
like
feet,
feelings of
That's right,
like
I
it
do
lifted
remember
its
seeing
foot
that.
up and then was like
the footprint.
nope.
Like you
And
see
stuff.
the
It is
print.
the giant
Yeah.
footprint was like seeing the
Yeah.
T-Rex. Oh.
Okay, I probably should know how to say his name. Kevin Tancheron.
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know how to say his name either. Actually,
We'll have to look that up.
Supergirl, Iron Fist, Legends of Tomorrow, The Flash, Prison
Oh.
Break.
Oh wow.
Oh, a lot of credits.
Sets at home the 5th episode
Oh,
of the Book of Boba Fett.
Ooh.
Oh, so it says already. It says for that one. Does it say for the others?
It does say.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
Ooh,
Here we
man.
go.
This
Here
might
we
It
be
go.
is
our-
right because
this
it
might
has
help our
Steph Green
predictions
on
here.
here. Book of Boba Fett, Tribes of Tatooine. And then it says Book of Boba Fett, well, plenty of action, Tribe of Tatooine, Tusken Raiders. And then it says the world was first introduced to Bryce Dallas Howard. It doesn't say Howard is expected to return for the Book of Boba Fett's 4th episode.
Ooh,
oh,
next-
we get Bryce next.
Next chapter.
I loved Bryce's. I really liked her chapter 4, which was the one
Yeah.
in season
Yeah.
1.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
Sanctuary.
Yep.
I liked that one. It was different. It was like a little side mission, but it was really.
It was.
I liked it. I liked the humanity she brought to Mando in that episode. It was
Absolutely.
huge. But then also she did the one with the whole with the women teaming up.
Yeah.
Uh,
true. Season
one in season 2, which was fantastic
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, that was great.
Chapter.
Chapter.
Oh man.
So after 5th, it says the last name on here is Dave Filoni.
Filoni.
It's unclear which of the remaining episodes Filoni is to direct.
finale ties Mando together.
I think that this
So if you had those
the
4
Filoni-verse.
4 and
no,
5,
it's the Favreau-verse too.
if you had 4 and 5, and then Filoni, Favreau 6 and
That's
7.
the
Yeah.
Falavro-verse.
Falavro-verse.
Falavro.
Falafel. It's Falavro.
Falavro.
Yeah, no, I think I think
I'm
we'll
excited.
get-
Bryce doing next week.
At least
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
true.
This
That'd
is
be great.
I don't know. This
Yeah.
website.
Any other predictions for next chapter? Before we wrap it up here.
We predicted the meeting would finally happen.
Trandoshans. Yep.
Trandoshans.
Yeah.
I
Rancor
predict,
training.
I predict a battle with. We're gonna fight it out with this biker gang
Yeah.
In a flashback.
in a flashback.
Oh, let me ask this: any new crew members? Any new members to Boba's gang?
It's a good question. We've added
Ooh.
some. We've added each chapter. We've added somebody. Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Chapter 1, we added the
Yep. The Gamorreans.
Gamorreans. Chapter 2, we added. Did we? Yeah. Who we add chapter 2? Thought there was somebody new. Maybe not.
Maybe
I don't know
chapter
if
2
I
we
don't know
didn't
if we did
actually.
have
Chapter
anybody
3, we
chapter-
added the bikers.
Chapter 2 was a lot of the flashback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
That was a lot of the flashback.
Maybe
of
we didn't add
flashback.
somebody new.
Chapter 3 though, and then that's the one we just got.
So 4, maybe we'll get more.
Is it possible we get more?
It's got to do something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm just excited. I'm excited to see where it's going as far as I really like what they're doing so far, but I also this episode, while I teased at the beginning that it wasn't necessarily my favorite, I liked it a lot. It accomplished a lot, which is it set the stage for we feel like a big interaction, a big altercation, whatever.
Yeah.
Conflict with the bikers is coming.
Yep.
Possible wipeout of the bikers with Boba going ham.
Going full Boba.
Full Boba.
Boba Fett.
And then the big Pike looming in the current timeline as far as that threat and that war coming with possible someone else behind the scenes. We're not sure. But then also just finally it feeling like it really is pushing the story forward because now the stakes are raising fast. It feels like he does now have to. There's no more sitting around. The Pikes are here. They showed him get off.
Right.
The Pikes are the Pike reinforcements are here, and
it's moving along.
It's moving along, and it looks like he's not going to have like 3 more chapters of like, it was a good day. And we added one more crew member.
Right.
Like it feels like, okay, here's our plan. We've got to get this settled. We've got to do that. And then I'm excited that because they kind of rounded out the Tusken storyline, that different I'm excited for different flashbacks. Coming. That's what I'm really excited for too. Is to see what they do with that.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was fun breaking down this chapter out, obviously, with this current show for us here at Star Wars Guys. We've been doing week to week, breaking down the Book of Boba Fett. So we'll continue doing that throughout the course of this show. But as always, we love to hear your guys' thoughts. We want to be as engaging with our viewership, our listenership. If you guys are listening to this back on audio form, we want to know your thoughts. So let us know your thoughts on this episode, your predictions for the next chapter, for where this show is going. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions, any of that stuff you guys have, comments. We'd love to mention it, shout you out, and include those into our future podcasts, future episodes, or if you're tuning in live, your live comments included in our conversation here on YouTube. Like I said, if you guys haven't finished it or you're listening back, and you made it this far, you can always go back and watch our stuff on audio as well on any podcast streaming platform.
Watch our audio.
Watch our audio.
You can listen to our audio back on any of the
You
podcasts.
can listen to our video and watch our audio.
You can do it all. It's possible here at Star Wars Guys.
We can do it all.
We can do it all.
All in.
So, as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next time, and may the Force be with you.
Jar Jar, you're the head of the biker clan.
Yes, I might be saying that.
Like a panther.
Like a panther. Every single